revolution somehow. And love explode and bring the dead to life. A love so bold to bring a revolution somehow. Now I'm lost in your freedom, and this world I'll overcome. My God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. He's roaring like a lion. Let hope arise and make the darkness hide. My faith is dead, I need a resurrection somehow. Now I'm lost in your freedom, and this world I'll overcome. My God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. He's roaring like a lion. He's roaring. Let heaven roar and fire fall. Come shake the ground with the sound of revival. Let heaven roar and fire fall. Come shake the ground with the sound of revival. Let heaven roar and fire fall. Come shake the ground with the sound of revival. My God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. He's roaring like a lion. He's roaring like a lion.
Empty-handed, but not forsaken. I've been set free. I've been set free. Amazing grace.
Good morning and welcome to the King's Report this Friday, November 10th, 2017. I'm your host, Hyung Moon, the second king of Cheonil-guk. And before we go to the weather, we're here joined with Toyin, our puppy here, our doggy. And look at these little babies the queen brought today. Okay, hold on, baby. Look at, come on. Look at these little babies. They're sleeping right now. Look at these little puppies. Oh, they're so cute. Hey, babe, how you doing? Which one is this? That's a boy. That's a boy. Look how cute these guys are. How adorable these guys are. They're actually sleeping pretty good in here. Look at this. Here's your other baby. Hey, Dada. Hey, Dada. Okay. And then here's the last baby. Okay, dog. Come here. Okay. And there's Chen Shuni. Hey, Chen Shuni. Okay, so we have Chen Shuni, Chen Hyungi, and what's her name? Chundori? Chundori? So they're super cute. And they're a little chilly in here because it is kind of chilly this morning, which is a perfect segue for our AccuWeather forecast. Let's go to Tim. All right, baby, hold on. You're good. You're good.
Good morning. The official temperature right now in Cheonggyeong is 41 degrees, but we're still working our way down to our morning low before the sun rises, which will be about 31.
In the chua.
And while the queen passes in front of the camera.
Oh boy, there it is again. See that? Get down that 50 cal.
Okay. So we're working down towards the low of 31, and then today we'll be only going up to 33 for a daytime high before we really bump down to nighttime low tonight of 14 degrees.
Look at that, it's 33 degrees right now.
Well, it's that's the high for today is 33. Right now
Oh,
it's
wow.
higher than that. Right now the temperature is about 41.
So it's actually dropping. It's going to drop today.
It's dropping, yes, because we have northwest winds coming in.
I love it.
Yes, and during the day we're going to have some pretty steady winds. It's going to be partly cloudy and northwest winds at 17 miles an hour, gusting up to 34 miles an hour. That's a pretty good clip for winds. Then the winds will be dying down tonight at 6 miles an hour, gusting to 15 miles an hour. But all that wind is coming in from central Canada, where the Arctic area is. And so it's
love
going to take us down to 14
Fantastic.
degrees. And even the high today is 33, but the real feel temperature will be 19 degrees.
Woo! Finally, we
And,
got some good weather coming.
even during the day. And tonight the real feel will be 12 degrees. So it's a couple of days of winter today and tomorrow before we get back to fall on Sunday.
I love it. You know what? It's amazing. If you think about it, like the sleeping bag technology that they have now, I mean, it's quite impressive. You don't need a fire, and this is why, like, the MMS system is really great. Even it's a little heavy, it's about 11 pounds, 10, 11 pounds. But think about the technology. You can get down to minus 30, okay, without a fire. Like in the past, in ancient world, that's not possible. You know what I mean? If you think about it. I mean, you can't get to minus 30 without a fire in the ancient world. You have to have some way to warm up, but with this very thin layer of synthetic nylon that they have on those bags, and then of course they have a lot of synthetic filler, which makes it heavier, but it's layered, so it's even more powerful. I mean, that's a pretty awesome technology if you think about it. Okay, now I've done wool blanket camping, but at minus 7 degrees Celsius, I'm sorry, Fahrenheit, so way colder Celsius. I've done that. That was the most painful night that I've slept outside, and I really didn't sleep. I made it through the night, the whole night, but I had to have a fire, and it was unbelievably painful. But to have a sleeping bag, a good sleeping bag, it's worth its weight in gold. I mean, seriously, it's an awesome technology. And then some of the down bags, they're even lighter. You know, some of the down bags are 2, 3, 4 pounds for like minus 20 or 0 degree bag. Like my 0 degree bag maybe is 4 or 5 pounds. And it's pretty awesome. I mean, I can't sleep in that thing zipped up in this kind of weather too. I just have it draped over me like a blanket because it's too hot. It's incredible technology. And it'll only weigh about 4 pounds. So if you think about it in total, like in terms of what it can do for you, at that weight, you know, in a sleeping mat is less than a pound. So with about 5 pounds of gear, you are then basically impervious to cold. That's incredible. That's unheard of in the ancient bushcraft world. And you know, maybe you add some type of tarp, which is very lightweight, and you can get maybe a good tarp, 10 by 10 tarp, maybe 3 pounds. So you're talking about 8 pounds, maybe, for a whole shelter sleep system, which doesn't require a fire. Okay, I carry a tent, which totally closes up, you know, so there's no wind beating you up. But you really don't even need that because the MMS closes up in a bivy sack. But if you have a enclosed tent system, let's say 6 pounds, okay, for the tent, that's a lightweight tent. So you got, let's say for a down sleeping bag, 0 degree sleeping bag, you have 5 pounds. Then you have another pound, less than a pound, maybe let's say 1 pound, for your sleeping mat, that's 6 pounds. Then you have another 6 pounds for your tent. You have your whole house and your bed system, house and a bed, for 12 pounds. You're carrying around a house and a bed for 12 pounds. That is freaking incredible. That's incredible. That's amazing. I mean, that kind of technology is incredible. And that segues today to our Rima. And look at this. I landed on Proverbs 23 and 13. Look at this. Do not withhold correction from a child, for if you beat him with a rod, he will not die. You shall beat him with a rod and deliver his soul from hell. Now this is interesting. When you do the studies, even from liberal think tanks, there's studies out of liberal things like Urban, and Ann Coulter was talking about it the other day with Jessie Lee Peterson on her interview with Jessie Lee Peterson. She names the liberal think tank that shows when you look at single mothers and you look at the crime rates of the children, you look at the low education rates, the low income wages in the future, all that kind of stuff. Look at the King James. What does the King James Version do? Let me see the King James Version. Okay, let's see what the King James Version says here. That's verse 13. It says probably do not spare the rod, right? Let's see. Withhold not from the child, for if thou beatest him with the rod, he shall not die. Thou shalt beat him with the rod, and shall deliver his soul from hell. That's pretty similar. Pretty similar to the new King James Version. But anyways, getting back to this study, even liberal think tanks, okay? Liberal leftist think tanks have to admit, statistically, that when you look at it, and they were talking about specifically the black family, when you look at a daddy mommy home, black family with a daddy mommy home compared to a white family with daddy mommy home, the crime rates are basically the same. There's no difference. Now, when you take out the daddy and you just have the single mom there, the crime rate skyrockets. You see? Because dads will teach their child boundaries, and they will not parent. They will not parent in an emotional fashion. Okay, and of course, I mean, girls realize this once they have sons. The sons will not listen to them once they're past puberty, because the moms will still speak in this high baby voice, high tone girl voice, because that's, girls' voices don't crack. But as soon as the son can speak in a lower voice, he will feel more powerful. And of course he is more powerful, just physically. And he will not listen to the mom anymore. He will not. And Jessie Lee Peterson's whole ministry is about trying to bring awareness to the angry mom in the black home, which is devastating and destroying the children. And of course, making the men scared of women, so in the future, when they grow up, they can't deal with women. I saw this, one of his interviews, he was interviewing an African-American guy and a Latino guy, and these guys were saying, man, we're scared of women. Basically, they feel nervous around women because their father was not there. And they were raised under this mom, and Jessie Lee was saying, so your mom call you baby? He's like, hey baby, how you doing, baby? Hi baby. The mom is still on heroin, and she still calls the son baby. And he's like, no, I got no problem with that. It's my mom. It's my mom. And Jessie Lee was saying, it's a grave insult for a woman to call you baby. He's like, you like it when women call you baby? He's like, yeah, you know, like this. And he was saying, you should not like it when a woman calls you baby. It's a huge put down when a woman calls you baby. But nobody's talking like that in the black community. Nobody. He's the only like father figure that's talking like that and saying, no, men, you should not like it when you should tell your mom, don't call me baby. I'm not a baby, I'm a man. You should tell your mom that. He said, you should confront your mom and tell her to stop that. And also, he of course tells them that you should forgive your mom for the anger that she had and how she raised you with all this anger to make you have this resentment and fear of women. All that. You should actually go confront her. You have to confront her. And he tells them, have you confronted her? And they say, no, I don't feel I have to do it. He said, no, you have to do it. Then you're not a man. If you're not a man, how can you say you're a man? And he always asks a question like, what's a real man? And they always have these different answers. He said, you can't be a real man unless if you have some resentment or pain, you have to confront that person. Tell them, you have to tell them. And then you have to tell them, you did this evil to me, but I forgive you. You know? He said, otherwise you can't be a man. Of course, that's what we had to do with the Han mother. We had to confront her. We had to say we love her and we forgive her on a personal level, obviously, not on a, that's beyond anybody at the national cosmic level. But we had to confront her and tell her we love you, but if you go down this way, mommy, you will destroy yourself. And of course, all this is coming true. As the rats leave the sinking ship on the macrocosm, with Hillary Clinton of Babylon, harlot of Babylon, on the macro, you can see the rats are starting to throw the Han mother harlot of Babylon, the microcosm, under the bus too. More on that in a couple days. But this is the Bible quote that teaches fathers that you must discipline your children. Sometimes you have to hit them. You know, actually they found that kids don't actually mind being hit as long as they know why they're being hit. You see what I'm saying? And of course the problem with beating the child with a immature parent is because you're probably gonna whoop them when you're gonna probably whoop them when you're emotional. You know what I'm saying? Like a lot of minority parents, and especially Korean moms, whoop on their kids like crazy. A lot of black families too. It's just quite common that the mom whoops on them. Okay, probably not in the white suburban rich kids' homes. You know, they don't do that. But Asian homes, Korean homes, maybe not Japanese. I don't think maybe Japanese, but definitely Korean moms. They will whoop you. They're basically they say that Korea is like the Asian Italians or the Asian blacks. But yeah, I mean, all my black friends, their moms whooped them. It's just like very common, you know. Yeah, you got whooped by your mom. It's like the white kid's like, oh my gosh, that's like, oh my goodness, is that true? It's like, oh my gosh, that's like child abuse. You know, these white rich kids in suburbia never got beat by their mom or their parents. But it's like, but in any case, they did the studies. They show very clearly statistically, when there is a dad in the home, the children, the criminality will basically equalize to other families with double parent homes. It will only skyrocket if there's a mom. If the mom is there alone, single mom, it will explode into tons of criminality. So it proves, of course, how absolutely essential the father is in a home. And all the feminists rail and scream like banshees when they hear this because they hate it. It just goes against their whole religion, cult. That's reality, though. You need to have a man to raise a man. A woman cannot raise a man to be a man. A woman can only raise a man to be a woman. And that's why Jesse Lee Peterson, Reverend, was talking about. He talks to black men, and he talks to them real honest. That's why you like a woman. You feel like a woman. You're emotional. You act like a woman. You can't get along with women. And then, like, one of his kids like, yeah, like, I feel like I can't deal with women because I never had a dad, you know, to teach me how to change a tire and do like man stuff, you know, man stuff. I never told you, he never teach me how to play the game or whatever, you know. It's like, a mom cannot teach you how to be a man because she's not a man. She's a girl. She can only teach you how to be a girl. That's just a simple reality because God gave them different roles. And of course, this statement is true. Now, when I raised my kids, I didn't have to beat them. You know, I didn't have to beat them with a stick or something, because I had a system to do the disciplining with warnings. You know, if they're doing something, they're acting a fool, then they get a warning, and then, you know, but I stay very calm. Okay. Now, if they really cross the line, and if they need a spanking, if they really cross the line, then they I think our first son got a spanking one time. Okay, but he clearly knew that he deserved it. It was not an emotional spanking. I never get emotional with my kids. And of course, I had to train the queen to not get emotional when she's parenting, because she's a girl and she's just naturally very more emotional. Now she's at a level where she can control her emotions. I mean, way higher level than 99% of girls. Okay, but before she couldn't, right? And this warning system allowed her to train to not get emotional, don't get angry, and just say, okay, warning one. Okay, good job. You got your warning one. Okay, good job. And then it gives a structure where kids realize, oh shoot, I got a warning. Okay, I did it again. Oh dang, man. Okay, warning two. Dang, 1, 3. And of course, when you first start that program, they test you. So you got to make sure when you get the warning 3, they get the consequence. And our consequence was they had to go and sit on the toilet for 10 minutes. Okay, they have to go in a separate room, which is a bathroom. Lights are on. It's not scary. It's not like the boogeyman or Freddy Krueger's in there. You know what I'm saying? You just keep the lights on. They have to sit on the toilet for 10 minutes. All right, and after 10 minutes, you'll see they just calm down. All that kind of thing. I remember my baby daughter when she first got her consequence and had to sit on a toilet. Okay, my daughter, she was like what, 3, 4 years old, something like that. And she was trying to pull on Daddy's heartstrings. Oh, Daddy! She had like those little bubbly eyes, little googly eyes, because you know she's so cute. You know, trying to look at me and trying to pull on Daddy's heartstrings. But I said, no, baby, you're fine, no problem. Daddy's right in front of the door, and I leave the door open, so I sit right there, so they can see I'm right there. You know what I'm saying? But they get a consequence, and that's very important. That's why you need your daddy. You learn consequences. You do this, you're gonna get consequence, baby. Daddy loves you, but you're gonna get a consequence, okay? And that's why our kids, of course, they're not perfect, but they're mature. For their age, they're very mature. Okay, because their daddy trains them, right? And all the study shows, of course, that's why absolutely critical. All these women, if you believe you don't need a man, you can raise your children on your own, you're baloney. You're a total anti-reality, narcissistic, anti-science, anti-statistical egoist, because it's just simply not true. He who spares a rod will destroy the child. Deliver his soul from hell, says the Bible. Now, You should not beat your child. You should not discipline them out of anger or emotion, because anger will connect you to the spirit of Satan. Of course, there's something like holy wrath and holy anger and righteousness. But if you have this emotionalized anger, right, and you're disciplining your children that way, you're going to mess up like crazy. You're going to really mess up a lot. You're going to be drunk on anger. You're not going to be able to raise your children. You're going to traumatize them. They're not going to know why you're beating them. All they're going to know is that you're moody and that they have to walk on eggshells to be around you. And then you'll develop, if you're a mom and doing that to your sons, they're going to develop a tremendous resentment against you. And at some point, they will confront you. And of course, Second King will tell them to confront you. So you will not be able to get away with your emotionalism. Your children will come back to confront you. And you definitely deserve it. So you should not do it. Now, even if you discipline your, even if you spank your children, you should obviously have, they should know why. They should know that they crossed the line 3 times. They should know that they have a rational, admittable system that they even themselves can admit, okay, damn, I really crossed the line like 3 times. And you shouldn't like spank them over stupid stuff. You know, let's say that they did something really bad, which is very character-wise is bad. Like they lied to you 3 times. You know, and they're still young or something like that. You know what I'm saying? Something big like that, which needs to really be curtailed. I'm not saying like if they're playing around and they're making so much noise and you say, be quiet, you know, and then you say, okay, warning 1, then the consequence is like much smaller, right? It's like sitting on the toilet. But if it's a consequence that's really bad for their character, right? Like not being truthful to their mom or dad, to a mature mom or dad, then you may be in a situation where you have to up the consequence. And personally, in my family, I did not up the consequence from sitting on the toilet to spanking, right? You up it from sitting on the toilet, and the next time they do that, it's going to be, you know, up consequence. So it's maybe 20 minutes on the toilet, okay? And then once they started exercising, you know, some of the we would talk to them about the consequence and say, okay, what would you like as a consequence? You could have this consequence. Here's some recommendations. You could have sit on the toilet, or sit on the toilet for what, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever it was. Or you can run around the circle 10 times, or run to the gate 10 times, whatever it is. You see what I'm saying? And that's actually good for their health anyways, if they're addicted to video games and sitting and being little vegetables. Okay? So then they get to choose. They can think about it. Yeah, that would be a fair punishment. Okay, yeah, if I do that thing 3 times, okay, yeah. You know, and then they end up being able to think about their behavior. Okay? So you don't just immediately jump to beating them. You know, and I never had to beat my kids. I never had to. They know daddy's strong. They know daddy's, you know, I don't play around. I mean, I'm very loving. I'm very playful. But I didn't know, you can't cross the lines. You know what I'm saying? You can't try to play games. Okay? Daddy know what you're doing. Daddy know it, and then daddy is your daddy. I'm not your friend. I'm your daddy. I'm here to raise you, so you become an honorable warrior. You see? And so it is absolutely critical that, of course, the citizens of Chaniguk are able to do that skillfully. And to be there to raise their children. This is when a woman really starts appreciating her husband, I think. If she has a husband who has maturity, when they have children, she will see her utter hopelessness in trying to manage boys. I mean, really, it's very difficult for a mom to just raise boys, unless she completely tries to dominate them with anger and threats. But if she does that, that comes back to bite them, because then they don't know how to deal with women, or they will start hating women. You see? This is a problem. So there's a problem when you have immature parents who have not had mind-body unity. Or even trained in mind-body unity. You don't have to have perfect mind-body unity to raise your children unemotionally or without tons of emotion. Now, that doesn't mean you won't have fun, emotional times and stuff like that with your kids. No, you'll have plenty of that. But you're not disciplining them in an emotional fashion, okay? That's very important. Your kids have to know that when you're disciplining them, it's because it's their behavior. When it's overly emotionalized, they will actually interpret that as thinking that you hate them. So that's the problem with emotional moms. If you try to discipline your children and you're emotional, like, why you do that? Why don't you love it? Don't do that? And you start crying, acting a fool, and like, you say, if you do that kind of stuff, then what the child starts learning is that you hate them, because you never act like that to anybody else, right? They can see you don't act like that to adults. They can see you don't act like that. You control yourself to other people, but to them you just let it pour out like the freaking floodgates. That is very irresponsible, extremely irresponsible, extremely damaging. Your children will be messed up for literally their life. And of course, at some point, if you've done that to them, they should confront you and say, that was very evil and painful. They should confront you. Of course, they should say they forgive you because you did do wrong. You did act like a child. And your children should confront you, especially your sons should confront you. They should call you out on that. I mean, they don't have to do it. I mean, they can do it, to you. Now, in the case of the Han mother, it's not just an individual matter. Obviously, she's trying to hijack the entire movement and the Worldwide Foundation and the successorship and all that was not given to her. So obviously, that's a different scenario. I did it to her individually, of course, for months. Having to confront her, having to tell her, Mommy, you cannot go down this path, in a loving way. But of course, since she was doing public things, excuse me, then of course, as a second king in my responsibility, I had to stand up against her publicly. Right? But for normal families, it's a matter of confronting her one-on-one, which of course I had to do too. So it is very important to discipline the children, but not emotionally. The Bible says, do not withhold correction from a child, for if you beat him with a rod, he will not die. You shall beat him with a rod and deliver his soul from hell. It says that, yes, but it doesn't say you're supposed to beat him emotionally. The next verse, my son, if your heart is wise, see, you have to do it with wisdom. You have to have a heart that is wise. You may have to spank your kids. Spare the rod, spoil the child, right? You may have to spank your kids in some way, but you have to do it with a wise heart, not a emotionalized, angry heart. You have to do it with a wise heart. A heart that is beyond the stupid emotions that make you angry, but a heart that is thinking of that child's future. Okay? My son, if your heart is wise, my heart will rejoice. Indeed, I myself, yes, my inmost being will rejoice when your lips speak right things. Okay? So that's the following verse of how you discipline your child. Okay, you do that. But he said, my son, your heart must be wise. Do it with a wise heart. Don't be quick to quick to be angry. What does the Bible say about God? He is slow to anger. Slow to anger. Now God, at some point, there is a breaking point, and there is a line you must not cross, and that God, holy anger, will come. But he's not emotional with you. He's not emotionally angry. He just realized you've stepped over the line to become Satan, and so he has to stop you and allow you to be punished. Doesn't mean he's emotional. You see? He's been patient with you until you really push, and now you cross the line. Okay, you know what? You cross that line. Okay, now the consequences have to come. Okay, now you're killing children, you're raping babies. All right, now the consequence has to come on your nation. You see what I'm saying? It's just like God waited and waits and waits and waits and be patient. And then the homosexual political movement and the transgender political sexual movement, the hypersexualization of the children, and then the pedophile movement. You know, there's some point where God says, okay, no more. And the murdering of babies with abortion. I mean, just at some point, no more. Okay? It's not like God is emotionalized about it, but he's like, no, okay, now I'm starting to get angry. I've been patient with you. Patient. I've been slow to anger. But you just tested me. And now you've just... And that's really important in parenting too. As a father, you have to be patient with your children. You can't, as soon as they did one little thing wrong, you can't be like, warning one! If you do that, then they'll really feel like you're like a surveillance cop or something. Like a bad federal policeman or something, right? You don't want to create that environment in your home. You want them to know that you are patient and loving. So they do something, they're making a ruckus when they're young. They're making just a crazy plum loco noise because they're having fun with their friends or whatever, or the siblings, whatever. They're playing around, screaming, you know how boys do, right? Sword fighting, all this crap, and then all this kind of stuff. Well, you know what I would do? I would let them play, and I would just because I know fighting too, so I would think that's fine. Boys can act it out. They can play out. They can fight. And they can play fight and do sword fighting, all this, what boys do. But then, so I would wait, and it's crazy, it's nuts, it's loud, and the mom's saying, be quiet, be quiet. I tell the mom, no, don't worry, guys. You settle down, Mom, settle down. Let them play. And then, okay, but then they're playing, and then they bump into the thing, and then now stuff starts falling down, it starts cracking. So, okay. Now we've reached a point. Okay, you see what I'm saying? That's what I would do. I would be patient. So, okay, all right, boys. You got warning one. Yeah, but I wouldn't get angry. Like they broke my teapots or something like that, hitting the things. And I wouldn't be like, you little idiots, give my bam. I wouldn't do that. You know what I'm saying? I'd just be like, okay. All right, okay, boys. Now you got warning one. Okay. There's warning one. You see? Like this. So I would be slow to anger. They know Daddy doesn't get angry fast, right? This is important because that is, as fathers and husbands, we have to emulate God. We have to be slow to anger. When we do get angry, though, there has to be consequences, okay? But you have to be slow to anger. If you're an emotional man because you've been raised by a resentful, angry woman, okay, and you've never learned how to be patient father by a good dad, okay? If you learn that anxiety from your mom and you're not aware of it, you have to confront her. You have to tell her. You have to tell her. You have to tell her. You have to say, you have to meet her and say, Mom, you really raised me with a lot of anxiety. And your anxious energy makes me anxious. And that really damaged the way I have to deal with people in this world. I'm in that sense, I'm kind of handicapped, and I resented you for that, and I forgive you. You have to do it, because then you're gonna be having that anxious energy putting down in your children, even as a man. But you'll never be a real man until you do that, right? And if you don't do that and be set free from that, like Jesse Lee Peterson says, if God doesn't set you free from that, you will always have this anxious energy, and you will actually behave like your mom when you raise your kids, which you don't want to do. You do not want to do it. You need to be the father of the home. Men. Men, you need to be the father of the home. That means you don't act like your mom. You have to act like a father. How your God is a heavenly father. Now you'll see the difference between girls and boys, because boys were used to play fighting. We're used to that. That's not an abnormal activity. So when we see that activity with our young boys, all right, they're just being boys. Now moms are not used to seeing that unless they grew up in a warrior culture, unless they're training, you know, with the king and all this kind of stuff. They'll be different. But I'm talking about normal girls who don't. It's like normal girls are playing with Barbie dolls, right? And there was this whole thing in psychology that they were trying to say, oh, that these are socially constructed things, that boys and girls actually are not different. And that it's only because we put them in blue and pink roles. That's been totally debunked as bullcrap. Even though they raised them, they've done studies where they had children in neutral settings where they had no gender signals. Still the boys would fight. Still the boys would play fight. The girls would actually go and do more communal things. You can't, this is how we're created by God, okay? You can't get rid of it. So in the girls' world, it's like wacky to see that, you know. Girls will see boys play fight and then just like walk away. They'll try to run away from that. Right? So your mom will not, she will, if you are too feminine and you find yourself being very girly, so to speak, not a man, it's probably because your mom was domineering, or she was the sort of ruler in your house, tacitly or in an unimplied fashion. So you have problems being a man and embracing masculinity and being a strong man because you had an overbearing mom and maybe you had a weak dad. Now I don't have a problem with that because my father was a very strong man. You know what I'm saying? So in my home, I'm a very strong daddy. And on the mats, when I train the kids, I'm a strong master. I'm a strong instructor. They know that. I'm loving, but I'm patient, but I'm strong. Right? Because I have a very strong father. Right? My king and my father was very strong, but he was loving. He was very loving. But he was slow to anger, but he was strong. He was a strong man. And I love him for that. I love him for that. Because I learned how to be a man by my father. You see what I'm saying? I learned how to embrace my masculinity by my father. My boys don't have a problem with that. They're becoming manly men who are also loving and kind, but men because their daddy is a man. Right? But if you find yourself that you're overly sensitive and you're overly emotional, and you're scared of women, it's probably because you had a overbearing mom or overbearing female figure that basically ruled over you. And you will be always put in bondage unless you confront her. You have to confront that person. You don't have to get emotional, but you have to tell her that what she tried to do, that she sinned against you, that she tried to dominate you, that she didn't allow you to connect to your father's masculinity. And if your father was too effeminate, you have to tell your father. You have to tell him. You have to confront him too and say, Dad, you were too nice and you were too effeminate. You let mom rule the house. So I realized that I resented you because you never taught me how to be a man and how to be the head of my household and to be head of my wife. To be subject, but to be head of my wife. You as a husband, you have a role. You have to raise your wife. You have to be like her head coach. But that requires you to be higher level and it requires you to be mature. Right? So you have to raise your wife. You have to understand that you have to raise your wife. You're not going to come in, even though a girl is mature, emotionally, they're not going to be able to, almost 90+%, 95% of the time, they're not going to be, their emotional control will be way less than men. So you have to raise her in love and in patience, in talking and explaining to her, being patient with her over the years. You have to raise her so she doesn't do that to your children. Right? God, Jesse Lee always says, and this is really, he's really distilling it. God in Christ, Christ in man, man over woman, woman over children. Okay? Children in mom, mom in dad, dad in Christ, Christ in God. Okay, you can go up or down. Up or down. It's the same way. All right? It's just a simple reality that moms cannot raise children alone. They cannot. Especially when you have boys in the mix. Maybe if you have a whole house of girls, well, they'll learn how to be a woman, but they'll never have the love of father. And girls need the love of father. Otherwise, they'll have an emptiness and they'll start attracting very dangerous men because they don't know what type of men are good. And that's very dangerous too for girls. That's why girls will have, even with fathers not in the home, girls will have higher teen pregnancy rates because they don't know how to identify honorable men, and they're taught by media and rap videos or whatever, music videos by Hollywood to date predators. So they get screwed, literally and spiritually, physically, mentally, all that. So the love of the father is the key relationship in a family. It's absolutely critical. And if you don't have the love of a patient but strong father, you will not be able to connect with God. You won't. Because God is a strong father, but he's patient. You see? So if you have a situation where your mom was overbearing and your father was, maybe let's say your father was a little effeminate and maybe he was like basically the mom and your mom was basically the dad, at some point you have to confront them. You have to tell them, hey, I don't feel whole because of mom, you were too overbearing. And especially if you're a boy, you have to do this. You have to do it. But girls too, you have to do this too. But especially if you're a boy, you have to do this. You have to step up and be a man. You cannot be a boy holding this reality. You have to confront your mom, and if your dad was very, very feminine, you have to confront your dad. Tell him, Dad, I could not learn how to be a man from you. You didn't teach me how to be a husband and how to raise my wife and be like the head coach in the home, to be the head of my wife. You didn't teach me, and I'm suffering because of that. I don't know how to deal with women. I don't know how to help them. I don't know how to get their respect so that they do submit to me and want to learn from me. I don't know how to do that because you never taught me, and I resent you because of that. I resent you, and I have a lot of pain, and I have a lot of problems in my life because I've not learned that from you, and I have to learn that from other men. But I forgive you. I forgive you. You have to do it. Then God will forgive you and set you free. And then, of course, maybe he will even convict your father and have your father change his life too and try to become more masculine. And it's not like a lot of these guys, it's not like it's even their fault, because in the West, especially in the West, men have been brainwashed to become girls. But everybody knows that girls are not attracted to men that are effeminate, unless they actually want to dominate a man, and because they're so different. That means they're so unconfident that they actually know they're attracted to stronger men sexually, but they want a man that they can control in the house. But those are more evil girls. Those are girls that are on the nefarious side. They want to control, they want to dominate, they don't want to love, they don't want to serve their partner. They want to be served, but they don't want to serve, right? This is evil. But if you're in that situation and you are a man and if you hear this word and you realize why you can't deal with women well, and I'm telling you, a lot of Western men have this problem. They just don't know how to deal with women. They're scared of women. They're literally scared of girls. I mean, it's like ridiculous. And especially if she's pretty or hot, then they're even more scared. Well, why are you scared of a girl? Number one, she's a human being. Number two, she's not a goddess. I don't care if she's hot. Don't be mesmerized by beauty. She still, flatulates and farts and does diarrhea and barfs. She does all that nasty crap. You know what I'm saying? So whenever in your mind, if you're being intimidated by a girl and maybe you're preparing for the blessing, whatever, the girl is really beautiful, don't be intimidated. Every time you feel intimidated, just remember, oh, this girl flatulates and barfs and does stupid things and, sits on the toilet and tries to push out poos and gets constipated. You know what I'm saying? Just a freaking human being. You don't have to be mesmerized by the beauty. But a lot of men fall into that. And the reason why you're doing that, men, probably the reason why you're doing that is because your mom was probably too overbearing. You have to confront her about it, and God will set you free. And then your dad, maybe, if you had it, hopefully you had a dad in your home. Your dad was uninvolved. Your dad was too effeminate. Your dad was detached. Maybe he had some other problems with alcoholism, whatever the case may be. Anyways, that dad was not teaching you how to be a man. He wasn't teaching you how to fight. He wasn't teaching you how to win. He wasn't teaching you how to be strong. He wasn't teaching you how to finish what you started. He wasn't teaching you how to do things on time. He wasn't teaching you how to not act a fool. He wasn't teaching you. He didn't teach you how to become. Not about he didn't teach you how to not let women dominate you. If you have that kind of dad, you also have to confront him. You have to confront him in love and tell him that you resent him for that. You have to do it. Do it. You have to do it. You may be 50, 60, 70 years old, and if your mom and dad is alive, you still got to do it. I had to do it too. I had to do it to her mother. You have to do it. You have to find closure there. Then God, your Heavenly Father, will send people. He will probably transform your dad and mom. He will make them realize what they've done. And He will set you free. Take heed to the Word of God. Take heed. It's Friday, November 10th. We'll see you right after this break.
Hi there, folks, and look at what I've got here today. My God, take a look at this. This is a BFR in 454 Casull with an octagonal barrel, magna porting, micarta grips. And look at that, it even has my initials on it, JM. Look at that thing of beauty, my God. Pop open the cartridge insertion door, and look at that cylinder spin. The finest revolvers in the world. That's the cannon. That's a cannon. Oh, man. Pretty accurate, though. That's our target. Oh, boy. Massive recoil.
Hi, I'm Joby Gorgas with Magnum Research. I'm here to tell you a little bit about our new L5 and 44 mag. This is our 5-inch model, lightweight model. It's got an aluminum grip frame, shaving down the weight so that we can get it under 50 ounces so that it's New York legal. I'm going to tell you a little bit about how to properly hold the L5 for function. When shooting a Desert Eagle, you want to make sure that your dominant arm is locked out, pushing back into the back of the grip. Your secondary hand is holding around the front of the grip to keep the muzzle flip down. This gives you a good firm hold for proper cycling. We got to remember that the Desert Eagle is a gas-operated rotating bolt semi-automatic pistol, not unlike an AR system. I also want to talk to you about the stance for shooting the Desert Eagle. When shooting the Desert Eagle, you need a good firm base, so you want to step into your direction, get that arm locked, that support hand on, and lean forward into it so that you can handle that recoil.
And we are back. Welcome back to the Kings Report, Friday, November 10th, 2017. Good morning, kings and queens of Cheongguk. Second King reporting live from the Cheongguk Palace studio. And we are now going to our top news of the day. Breaking from InfoWars, FBI agents ready to testify against Mueller for protecting Islamic terror. Let's take a look at this clip.
Because this is like a souped-up McCarthyism. Right now we are witnessing. Imagine my shock when I saw that Robert Mueller was appointed as the special counsel in this case. And the same Robert Mueller who during my case, he's the Robert Mueller who put gag orders in my case together with Attorney General Ashcroft.
Now, Sybil Edmonds is the head of the National Whistleblowers Association. The exact name is on the thing below, but basically a national whistleblowing organization. Okay, she's the head of that.
For all that, Alex.
We were just pointing out that
resistance.
They're bringing in this Islamic terrorist. They're protecting him. And then the Blasio and soft on terror. And that Trump was right. And they called that a fake story. It was #1 on Twitter and banned it. I mean, this is like really dangerous. Gagging whistleblowers, SWAT teaming William Binney, SWAT teaming Manafort.
We should have like a low as a you instead of, they say you are the resistance. You are the kings and queens of the gate. All right.
They're trying to put Flynn. Reportedly, they've got a sealed indictment on him, but they're afraid of what he may say about classified stuff. This is real brinksmanship. And then Mueller comes into the situation. Mueller, let's talk about some of his background, Sibel Edmonds. You were in the FBI when he was the director of it.
Yes, and this I tell you what we are seeing here, it basically makes McCarthyism era light. Because this is like a souped up McCarthyism right now we are seeing, witnessing. Imagine my shock when I saw that Robert Mueller was appointed as the special counsel in this case. And the same Robert Mueller, who during my case, he's the Robert Mueller who put gag orders in my case together with Attorney General Ashcroft. You remember all that, Alex. With all these FBI files and cases that Robert Mueller was covering up on Gulen's network.
Gulen is that Islamic Turkey. Gulen is the one. He actually lives in PA, doesn't he? He has safety in PA. He was investigated by Dr. Paul Williams, who's of course on our show. And he has billions of dollars in his bank account. Remember that? And Dr. Williams was reporting on that and was doing investigation. He's one of the main power brokers in the country of Turkey. And he's basically taking political refuge here through the Obama administration and is able to fund literal revolutions in Turkey, but being given protection here in the United States by the Obama administration. So that's who she's mentioning when she's talking about Gulen.
Agents. They were FBI agents not only in Washington's field office, but also in Chicago field office, in Patterson field office, who were blowing the whistle on Mueller internally, saying he's quashing our investigations. He's taking these terrorism and criminal investigations on Gulen and his network, and he was transferring them into counterintelligence. And when I was the one who stepped outside the FBI, went to Congress, went to IG, it was again this same Mueller who invoked the state secrets privilege with Ashcroft, placed gag orders to protect this terrorist network. So imagine my shock when I see, lo and behold, it's Robert Mueller. And Robert Mueller dug and could not find a single thing on General Flynn linking him in any way to any nefarious activities or operations with the Russians. So he expanded this farce investigation.
Now to not maybe filing the right paperwork.
Turkeygate.
Exactly. Turkeygate. It's now his Russia investigation.
When it comes to General Flynn, it's Turkeygate. And nobody in the media, look, President Trump said, fine, go and do the investigation in a limited scope. Anything that had to do with so-called allegations on...
But now it's moved on to Turkey and him consulting for the Turkish government on how to try to stop ISIS. What he did was totally legal. So it's amazing.
And guess what? Not only, we know the left, the media. Recently, we put out an expose on the Young Turks at News, but, they have changed modus operandi, Alex, because it got so much publicity when foundations like Soros was directly funding them, right? So now the Clinton camp, they get their allies, they have them set up shell companies. These are bogus shell companies. They funnel the money to the shell companies, private companies, and have the private companies.
Look at that. Clinton paid the Young Turks $20 million. That is, quote, alternative news, that they say that they're alternative news. No, they are controlled propaganda for Hillary and the Democratic Party.
Funnel money to media organizations.
Let's talk about the Young Turks, because for people that don't know,
they are just only one of these left media organizations who are now implementing the new modus operandi.
And if you wonder why they're all so pro-Hillary and are covering up everything, it's because they're paid by Hillary and paid by different Islamic...
And the shell companies created so they can have Hillary camps money funneled. They got $10 million from this company, from this fake shell company that was established 3 months before they gave $10 million to the Young Turks. This is how much money they are spending on
And again, the Young
propaganda,
Turks
right?
are a Google-funded, controlled, Democratic Party, Soros-funded disinformation operation literally, they were in my YouTube in 30 seconds after they confronted me and I went on their show. They gave the orders and they shut down my YouTube themselves to show their power. They are literally in bed with Google.
Oh, absolutely. And they have been. That guy, the buffoon, Cenk Uygur, has been after me since 2004. But back to the Flynn case, and I'm going to break 2 news pieces here on your show. It hasn't been out. Nobody has it. We have developed our own sources. With our very limited budget, we have been traveling, interviewing people. So I have 2 breaking news to break during this show. But Mueller, I can't believe not only the left media, Young Turks, all the ones funded by the Clinton camp, Soros, but even the more conservative or so-called conservative media outlets, they haven't touched this case with General Flynn, with Mueller's real conflict of interest. Yes, he has huge conflict of interest on Uranium One, which again, we were reporting on that 2 years ago during Malheur protests on Uranium One and Clinton Foundation and Mueller's role. But in this case, by going after Flynn, not finding anything else, trying to punish a whistleblower who blew the whistle as a whistleblower.
Sure, it ought to be Obama and all of them in trouble for running Islamic State and Al-Qaeda. Stay there. Let's come back and get into the new breaking news on Mueller and more. And then I want to do one more little short segment after that, getting into recapping all the stuff you exposed earlier, those intercepts back on 9/11. Sibel Edmonds is our guest. Check out her website, NewsBuzz.
It looks like they don't show in this clip the breaking news that they are talking about during that break.
Several veteran, highly decorated FBI agents, if subpoenaed, they would testify on how Robert Mueller, due to what he was doing as the director of the FBI, cannot preside as the special counsel in this case. It's a slam dunk case. It's not allegation, it's documented.
Sibel Edmonds, let's get into the 2 big breaking news pieces here.
Okay, good.
We
Continue.
have been experiencing the same kind of attacks by the Twitter. So they are really getting aggressive. We have been experiencing it with YouTube as well. It amazes me how much monopoly the deep state has, the other camp. And before I forget, I would like to mention that it is really disappointing how some of these attorneys, whether from the White House or even in this case with General Flynn's attorneys, they keep going in this defensive mode instead of really going in on offense because they have so much ammunition. I tell you what we have gathered, what we have put out there on Director Mueller, just the conflict of interest that is huge on Fethullah Gulen, on all the quashing of the facts that dates back to Clinton era, after getting to office in 2000, 2001, they can use this information and have him step down. But it's really disappointing to see that they keep going into this defensive mode, because I know of several veteran, highly decorated FBI agents, if subpoenaed, they would testify on how Robert Mueller, due to what he was doing as the director of the FBI, cannot preside as the special counsel in this case. It's a slam dunk case. It's not allegation, it's documented. But I don't know where they are. I don't know why they're going on defense mode, because from what I'm seeing, the other camp, not only they have been going on this constant offensive, but on top of that, they have been leaking like seed, but leaking misinformation, lies. And here is one of my breaking news here. some people involved with cases of General Flynn, because there are several cases they have concocted, none of them legitimate case. They have issued gag order, and they are preventing them now from twinning, okay? That's one piece of information to tell you how much of one-sided power we are talking about here. They have been issuing gag orders on these people who are the targets of these investigations. And in this case, with General Flynn's case, you're looking at a completely wrongful case, because there is nothing. There is not a single criminal case.
Wow, so be clear on that. Specifically, who's been issued gag orders?
I cannot right now name the individuals, but there have been people connected to the case who have been twitting legitimate.
You're saying outside of Manafort and his deputy, because we know those gag orders were issued.
Outside Manafort and his deputies, okay? This also applies even though no indictments, no arrest warrant has yet, been served to Flynn.
That is simply amazing. Not only are they banning and blocking Roger Stone on Twitter, who they're accusing of being a Russian agent, I mean, that they silence you as they demonize you, and now we learn they've done it to I guess you're saying Flynn. I mean, this is just unbelievable.
How are you supposed to defend yourself against misinformation? We actually put out information and had people, some of these publications, retract information. One of them was this guy, this journalist, Chuck Ross, who got the documents from the White House. This is Obama White House in November 2016, before Obama left the White House. He was handed all these lies on General Flynn. He published. After all the pressure from us and from some of the other sources, they retract. But you know how they retract? These little tiny funds.
Exactly. Well, it's just like Comey lied and said he wasn't leaking info. Then turned out he was the leaker. But he goes, oh, I gave it to another journalist. I gave it to a professor. Sibel Edmonds is our guest right now, AmazingNewsBud.com. Everybody's got to get this out. But what a bombshell. You were in the FBI, high-level counterterrorism, as everybody knows. You're saying you have FBI sources who are ready to expose Mueller right now for his connections and conflicts of interest with the Gulen Network, or what other areas?
For example, if subpoenaed, whether these FBI agents or myself, we can name the files, because they have multiple investigations on Gulen dating back to 1999. Okay, this is the terrorist, radical terrorist, Mullah Fethullah.
And by the way, let's be clear, it was folks leaking info.
By Bill Clinton.
It's a radical.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yes.
So
And white-collar crime, under terrorism investigations, under counterintelligence and espionage investigations since 1999. And it was Bill Clinton's Janet Reno's office that started quashing this information, and it was afterwards Robert Mueller who quashed this information, and now he's using what he did, okay, and this is General Flynn, by standing for the Americans' interest against the terrorist interest.
Sure, we know the whole Saudi Arabia network, the globalists, are hooked in with Bush Sr., Obama, the Clintons, Mueller. They're all bagmen making money. What is your intel on the rage and the shakeup in Saudi Arabia? Our intel is it's cutting off the globalist connections and power in Saudi Arabia they were using back here in the U.S., and that Trump is rolling up these networks.
We've been getting conflicting reports on that. I know there are some factions who are trying to link this to Iran, okay? And they want the after effects, let's call it aftershocks, spill over into what's taking place and what's going to take place with Iran. I think it's a bit too early to tell, but we had a roundtable discussion at NewsBud about three and a half months ago, and that was one of the predictions I made, because people were talking about the 28 pages. I said, Saudi Arabia is also on the list, and we are going to have regime change there, or the window dressing regime change there. It's too early to tell. But speaking of that, let your viewers, your listeners know about another breaking news.
Gotta go to break. Stay right there. We'll be back in about a minute and a half with Sibel Edmonds with the other big breaking news. I'm Alex Jones at newswars.com, prisonplanet.com. We're in the middle of a 34-hour broadcast right now. Our regular show time's 11 a.m. to 3 p.m.
Let's go to her third point of breaking news. They don't have these in order, so I can't see which one it is, which one is which. But let's go to her second breaking news point. All right, we're having a little difficulty here. Let's see if our tech team can pull that up. InfoWars, go to the breaking FBI agents ready to testify against Mueller for protecting Islamic terror. And let's go to the video in the middle. Exclusive FBI whistleblower exposes Mueller's crimes. Here we go. Oh no, now it's playing. Now it's playing.
Becomes aware, this is during the Obama administration, that this is what Obama administration was doing. The US government was creating these jihadi groups, which later was termed ISIS, and he blew the whistle internally. He went, and think about it, he's the director of the Defense Intelligence Agency. He says, what the heck is this? And he stands out and he stands up against what the Obama administration was doing, opposes all these operations in creating ISIS. And here we are, US government, Obama administration creating, arming, training ISIS in Turkey, in Jordan. And of course, by blowing the whistle, what is the first thing that's going to happen to you? I know it, and I know it based on hundreds of whistleblower cases I have represented, I have studied, I have analyzed. They pushed him out of the administration.
Gulen is a radical terrorist, radical cleric that also Dr. Paul Williams have been talking about for the last 2 years, many years.
He lives a little more than an hour from here.
Well, he has total safe haven and safe refuge given by the government. They're housing a radical cleric who can literally fund with billions of dollars radical ISIS groups and different terrorist networks, jihadi networks.
The Turkish government
in Turkey.
The Turkish government accuses him of being behind the attempted coup.
Revolution,
last year,
right, right.
A year ago.
That's right.
And there's the UK paper Independent wrote an article in him last July. Said that while Gulen looks like a rather cuddly imam spending his twilight years in American retirement, he has built up an extraordinary system of Islamic schools and charities in the US, UK, and Turkey.
Yes, that's right.
Worth billions of dollars. His own movement has withdrawn a book where he justifies wife beating, albeit as a last resort, in quotes, describes Christianity as perverted, and refers to America as our merciless enemy.
There's the demon. There he is, Gulen. There he is. There's a radical mullah.
There is a speculation that Turkey is asking America to extradite him back to Turkey. The Obama administration refused. There's some speculation that the Trump administration may do that.
Very nice, very nice. Let's go back to Sybil Edmonds.
Particularly give me the inside baseball on this. Newsbud.com. Get this story. This is bombshell and could bring down Mueller, who deserves to be brought down. She got more courage than anybody I know out there. You just keep asking for it in their face. Sybil Edmonds, thank you for joining us.
Hello, Alex. Many thanks for the invite and for this opportunity, because of all the angles, all the ongoing cases right now under this farce Russiagate investigations. General Flynn's case is the case that stands out the most, and it is blacked out the most by the media. You either see false information, completely false information, unanimously put out by the media, and you also see all these blacked out information. So I'm really grateful for this opportunity. We at Newsbud have been covering nonstop General Flynn's case since last August. And I just want to start by saying and explaining why General Flynn's case and why Newsbud has been nonstop covering this case of all the different angles and developments that we have been seeing, the farce development.
I mean, isn't it the window into understanding the different factions and everything?
Well, yes. Well, As you know, I have been nonpartisan. I have been around for 16 years. You just mentioned. I guess we are both getting really old, Alex. I can't believe we've been around
Well,
this long.
you still, you look great. I don't know about me.
No, you do, and you still have the energy. And again, this is, I don't know,
must have
the
been the
seventh or
beginning
eighth
of the
time you
interview.
have given us the platform.
You have them in not the right
to
order.
tell blacked out stories and documented the stories, not allegations, not sensationalism. But here's why General Flynn's case grabbed my attention starting last August, okay? As you
All
know,
right, that looks
I
like
was
the
a
beginning of the interview.
whistleblower
We've
with the
seen
FBI.
basically what they were saying. Mueller is protecting Gulen. Of course, that's basically what she's saying. Basically what she's saying is that Mueller was protecting
Apparently, yeah.
Gulen. He has conflict of interest. And there is and Trump is trying to see what he can do to get rid of this guy, as you just mentioned now. And of course, he should. Let's go now to the top news on drudgereport.com. And of course, Judge Morris hit with sex accusations. I saw this last night when this was breaking there. Of course, the Washington Post is trying to take him down. Woman says Roy Moore initiated sexual encounter when she was 14 and he was 32. Lee Korfman said she was 14 years old when an older man approached her outside a courtroom in Etowah County, Alabama. She was sitting on a wooden bench with her mother, they both recall, when the man introduced himself as Roy Moore. It was early 1979, and Moore, now the Republican nominee in Alabama for a U.S. Senate seat, was 32-year-old assistant district attorney. He struck a conversation, Korfman and her mother say, and offered to watch the girl while her mother went inside for a child custody hearing. He said, "Oh, you don't want her to go in there and hear all that. I'll stay out here with her," says Korfman's mother, Nancy Wells, 71. "I thought how nice of him to want to take care of my little girl." Alone Korfman Moore chatted with her and asked for her phone number, she says. Days later, she says he picked her up around the corner from her house in Gadsden, drove her about 30 minutes to his home in the woods, told her how pretty she was, and kissed her. On the second visit, she said he took off her shirt and pants and removed his clothes. He touched her over her bra and underpants, she says, and guided her hand to touch him over his underwear. "I wanted it over with, I want it out," she remembers thinking. "Please just get this over with, whatever this is, just get it over." Korfman said she asked Moore to take her home, and he did. Two of Korfman's childhood friends says she told them at the time that she was seeing an older man, and once, says Korfman, identified the man as Moore. Wells say her daughter told her about the encounter more than a decade later, as Moore was becoming more prominent as a local judge. Aside from Korfman, 3 other women interviewed by the Washington Post in recent weeks say Moore pursued them when they were between the ages of 16 and 18, when he was in his early 30s. Episodes they say they found flattering at the time, but troubling as they got older. None of the 3 women say that Moore forced them into any sort of relationship or sexual contact. Wendy Miller says she was 14 and working as a Sanders helper in the Gadsden Mall when Moore first approached her, and 16 when he asked her on dates, which her mother forbade. Debbie Wesson Gibson says she was 17 when Moore spoke to her high school civics class and asked her out on the first several dates that did not progress beyond kissing. Gloria Thacker Deason says she was 18-year-old cheerleader when Moore began taking her on dates that included bottles of Mateus Rose wine. The legal drinking age in Alabama was 19. Of the 4 women, the youngest of the time was Korfman, who is the only one who says she had a sexual contact with Moore that went beyond kissing. She says they did not have intercourse. In a written statement, Moore denied the allegations. These allegations are completely false and are a desperate political attack by the National Democratic Party and the Washington Post on this campaign. Moore, now 70, said. The campaign said in a subsequent statement that if the allegations were true, they would have surfaced during his previous campaigns, adding this garbage is the very definition of fake news. After the Post published a story Thursday afternoon, Majority Leader Mitch McConnell and a handful of GOP senators and more must have cited Korfman's account as true. According to campaign reports, none of the women has donated to or worked for Moore's Democratic opponent, Doug Jones, or his rivals in the Republican primary, including Senator Luther Strange, whom he defeated in fall. Korfman, 53, who works as a customer service representative at a payday loan business, says she has voted for Republicans in the past 3 presidential elections, including Donald Trump in 2016. She says she thought of confronting Moore personally for years, and almost came forward publicly during his first campaign for a state Supreme Court in 2000, but decided against it. Her 2 children were still in school then, and she worried about how it would affect them. She also was concerned that her background, 3 divorces, and a messy financial history might undermine her credibility. There's no one here that doesn't know that I'm not an angel, Corbin says, referring to her hometown of Gadsden. Corbin described her story consistently in 6 interviews with the Post. The Post confirmed that her mother attended a hearing in the courthouse in February 1979. Through divorce records, Moore's office was down the hall from the courtroom. Neither Corbin nor any of the other women sought out the Post. While reportedly a story in Alabama about supporters of Moore's Senate campaign, a Post reporter heard that Moore allegedly had sought relationships with teenage girls. Over the ensuing 3 weeks, 2 Post reporters contacted and interviewed the 4 women. All were initially reluctant to speak publicly, but chose to do so after multiple interviews, saying they thought it was important for people to know about their interactions with Moore. The women say they don't know one another. I pray her over this, Corbin says, explaining why she decided to tell the story now. All I know is that I can sit back and let this continue, let him continue without the mask being removed. This account is based on interviews with more than 30 people who said they knew Moore between 1977 and 82. When he served as an assistant district attorney for Etowah County in northern Alabama, where he grew up. Moore was 30 and single when he joined the district attorney's office, his first government job after attending the U.S. Military Academy at West Point, serving in Vietnam, graduating from law school, and working briefly as a lawyer in private practice in Gadsden, the county seat. By his account chronicling his book, So Help Me God, Moore spent his time as a prosecutor convicting murderers, rapists, thieves, and drug pushers. He writes that it was around this time that I fashioned a plaque of 10 Commandments on 2 redwood tablets. I believe that many of the young criminals who I had to prosecute would not have committed criminal acts if they had been taught these rules as children. Moore writes, outside work, Moore writes that he spent his free time building rooms onto a mobile home in Gallant, a rural area about 25 miles west of Gadsden. According to colleagues and others who knew him at the time, Moore was really seen socializing outside work. He spent 1 season coaching the Gallant Girls, a softball team that his teenage sister had joined, said several women who played on the team. He spent time working out at the Gadsden YMCA, according to people who encountered him there, and he often walked, usually alone, around the newly opened Gadsden Mall, 6 feet tall, well-dressed in slacks and button-down shirt, say several women who worked there at the time. Corbin described himself as a little lost, a typical 14-year-old kid of a divorced family, when she said she first met Moore that day in 1979 outside the courtroom. She said she felt flattered that a grown man was paying attention to her. He was charming and smiley. After her mother went into the courtroom, Corbin says Moore asked her where she went to school, what she liked to do, and whether he would call her sometime. She remembers giving him her number and says he called not long after. She says she talked to Moore on her phone in the bedroom, and they made plans for him to pick her up at Alcott Road and Riley Street, around the corner from her house. I was kind of giddy, excited, an older guy, Corbin said, adding that her only sexual experience at the point has been kissing boys her age. She says that it was dark and cold when he picked her up and that she thought they were going out to eat. Instead, she says she drove to her house, which seemed far, far away. I remember the further I got from my house, the more nervous I got. She remembers an unpaved driveway. She remembers going inside and him giving her alcohol on this visit or the next, and that at some point she told him she was 14. He says they sat and talked. She remembers that Moore told her she was pretty, put his arm around her and kissed her, and that she began to feel nervous and asked him to take her home, which she says he did. Soon after, she says he called again and picked her up at the same spot. This was a new experience, and it was exciting and fun and scary, Corbin says, explaining why she went back. It was just like the roller coaster ride you've not been on. She says that Moore drove her back to the same house after dark, and that before long she was lying on the blanket on the floor. She remembers Moore disappearing into another room and coming out with nothing on but tight white underwear. She remembers that Moore kissed her. He took off her pants and shirt, and that he touched her through her bra and underpants. She says that he guided her hand to his underwear and that she yanked her hand back. I wasn't ready for that. I never put my hand on a man's penis, much less an erect one, Corbin says. She remembers thinking, I don't want to do this and I need to get out of there. She says that she got dressed and asked Moore to take her home, and that he did. The legal age of consent in Alabama then and now is 16. Wow, it's 16, see? That's like Germany. Under Alabama law in 1979, and today a person who is at least 19 years old who has sexual contact with someone older then 12 and younger than 15 has committed sexual abuse in the second degree. Sexual contact is defined as touching of sexual or intimate parts. The crime is misdemeanor, punishable by up to 1 year in jail. The law then now also includes a section enticing a child younger than 16 to enter a home with the purpose of proposing sexual intercourse or fondling of sexual and genital parts. That is a felony punishable by about 10 years in prison. In Alabama, the statute of limitations for bringing felony charges involving sexual abuse of a minor in 1979 would have run out 3 years later, and the time frame for filing a civil complaint would have ended when the alleged victim turned 21. According to Child USA, a nonprofit research and advocacy group at the University of Pennsylvania. Corbin never filed a police report or a civil suit. She says that after this the last encounter, Moore called again, but that she found an excuse to avoid seeing him. She says that at some point during or soon after the meeting with Moore, she told two friends in vague terms that she was seeing an older man. Betsy Davis, who remains friendly with Corbin and now lives in L.A., says she clearly remembers Corbin talking about seeing an older man named Roy Moore when they were teenagers. She says Corbin described an encounter in which an older man wore nothing but tight underwear. She said she was firm with Corbin that seeing someone as old as Moore was out of bounds. I remember talking to her and telling her that's not a good idea, Davis said, because we were so young. The second friend who spoke on the condition of anonymity for fear of losing her job has a similar memory of a teenage Corbin telling her about seeing an older man. After talking to her friends, Corbin said she began to feel that she had done something wrong and kept it a secret for years. I felt responsible, she says. I felt like I had done something bad, and it kind of set the course for me doing other things that were bad. She says that her teenage life became increasingly reckless with drinking, drugs, boyfriends, and suicide attempt when she was 16. As the years went on, Corbin said she did not share her story about Moore, partly because of the trouble in her life. She has 3 divorces and financial problems while living in Arizona. She and her second husband started a screen printing business that fell into debt. They filed bankruptcy protection 3 times, once in 1991 and with $139,000 in unpaid claims brought by the IRS and other creditors according to court records. In 2005, Corbin paid a fine for driving a boat without lights. In 2010, she was working at a convenience store when she was charged with a misdemeanor for selling beer to a minor. The charge was dismissed, court records show. The 3 older women who spoke to the Post say that Moore asked them on dates when they were between 16 and 18. He was in his early 30s. Gloria Thacker Deason says she was 18 and Moore was 32 when they met in 1979 at the Gadsden Mall, where she worked at the jewelry counter of a department store called Pizitz. She said she was attending Gadsden State Community College and still living at home. My mom was really, really strict, and my curfew was 10:30, but she would not let me stay out later with Roy, says Deason, who's now 57, lives in North Carolina. She just felt like I would be safe with him. She thought he was good husband material. This is a Deason here. Deason said they dated off and on for several months and that he took her to his house at least 2 times. She says their physical relationship did not go further than kissing and hugging. He liked Eddie Rabin and I liked Freddie Mercury, Deason says, referring to the country singer and the British rocker. She says Moore would pick her up for dates at the mall or at college basketball games where she was a cheerleader. She remembers changing out of her uniform before they went out for dinners at a pizzeria called Mater's, when she says Moore would order bottles of Metia's Rose, or at a Chinese restaurant where she says he would order her tropical cocktails at a time when she believed she was younger than 19, the legal drinking age. Her mother had known that if known, she would have had a hissy fit, said Deason, who said she turned 19 in May 79 and she and Moore started dating. Around the same time that Deason says she met Moore at the jewelry counter, Wendy Miller says Moore approached her at the mall where she would spend time with her mom, who worked at a photo booth there. Miller says it was in 1979 when she was 16. Ms. Miller, Gibson. Very long article. Very long article. Very long article. So this is now a top report on drudgereport.com by the Washington Post. And of course, Roy Moore and his people are saying that this is nothing more than a media slam or a demonization of him. This may be the reason why Trump didn't support him. We don't know, but it looks like there is some problems with that are starting to emerge with these allegations. Now, of course, these are allegations, and of course, these have to be confirmed, because the allegations, of course, they were trying to say, even with the Hollywood allegations that are popping out with the Hollywood, there has to still be a jury and there has to still be a court case. Okay, these allegations are, if they remain as allegations, what the left can do, of course, is it can allege that anybody was sexually assaulted by this or that person if they don't like you. Okay, and then of course they can try to go after you. So these, obviously, we have to see.
There's an election coming up in, I think, less than a month, about 3 weeks or so. And that's not enough time for there to be a court case.
Not enough time, but it's definitely going to hurt. It's definitely going to hurt.
That's definitely the design here. This is hardball politics, basically.
And it's definitely going to hurt big time. Hurt big time. We'll be right back after this. Stay with us.
Unleash your kingdom's power, reaching the near and far. No force of hell can stop your beauty changing hearts. You made us for much more. Let love explode and bring the dead to life. A love so bold to see a revolution somehow. Let love explode and bring the dead to life. A love so bold to bring a revolution somehow. Now I'm lost in your freedom, and this world I'll overcome. My God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. He's roaring like a lion. Let hope arise and make the darkness hide. My faith is dead, I need a resurrection somehow. Now I'm lost in your freedom, and this world I'll overcome. My God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. He's roaring like a lion. He's roaring. Let heaven roar and fire fall. Come shake the ground with the sound of revival. Let heaven roar and fire fall. Come shake the ground with the sound of revival. Let heaven roar and fire fall. Come shake the ground with the sound of revival. God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. God's not dead, he's surely alive. He's living on the inside, roaring like a lion. He's roaring like a lion. Let hope arise and make the darkness hide. King of my heart, breathe the wind inside my sails, the anchor in the waves. Oh, he is my song. Let the King of my heart be the fire inside my veins, the echo of my days. Oh, he is my song. You are good, good. You are good, good. Yes, you are good, good. You are good, good.
Never gonna let me down. Welcome back to the King's Report this Friday, November 10th, 2017. Okay, that's enough of that. Singing during the break. All right, folks, we are back. Let's go to Tim Elder for a special report on Trump in Vietnam. Tim.
First, I want to read some of President's tweets over the past 12 hours. 12 hours ago, he tweeted, "My meetings with the President Xi Jinping were very productive on both trade and the subject of North Korea. He is a highly respected and powerful representative of his people. It was great being with him and Madam Peng Liyuan." And then he said, 10 hours ago, "I'm leaving China for APEC 2017 in Vietnam. Flotus Melania is staying behind to see the zoo and, of course, the Great Wall of China before going to Alaska to greet our amazing troops." And then 6 hours ago, he tweeted, "Just landed in Da Nang, Vietnam to deliver a speech at APEC 2017. And then he has tweeted some of the excerpts from his speech. "Throughout my travels, I've had the pleasure of sharing the good news from America. I've had the honor of sharing our vision for a free and open Indo-Pacific, a place where sovereign and independent nations with diverse cultures and many different dreams can all prosper side by side." So he stresses sovereign.
Trump is changing the world. Trump is changing the world. Donald J. Trump is changing the world. He is changing the world. It is incredible. Go ahead.
In more and more places throughout this region, citizens of sovereign and independent nations, this time sovereign and independent are in all caps,
sovereign,
have taken greater control of their destinies and unlocked the potential of their people. And then today I'm here to offer a renewed partnership with America to work together to strengthen the bonds of friendship and commerce between all of the nations of Indo-Pacific and together to promote our prosperity and security. We will make bilateral trade agreements with any Indo-Pacific nation that wants to be our partner and that will abide by the principles of fair and reciprocal trade. The United States is prepared to work with each of the leaders in this room today to achieve mutually beneficial commerce that is in the interest of both our countries and both your countries and mine. That is the message I'm here to deliver today. The United States has been reminded time and again in recent years that economic security is not merely related to national security. Economic security is national security. It is vital to our national strength. So those are his tweets. And I want to go to the Reuters take on this speech. U.S. President Donald Trump set out a strong message on trade at a meeting of Asia-Pacific countries in Vietnam on Friday, saying the United States could no longer tolerate chronic trade abuses and would insist on fair and equal trade policies. Trump said the United States was ready to make a bilateral deal with any country in the Indo-Pacific region, but only on the basis of, quote, mutual respect and mutual benefit, unquote. Although he was addressing a meeting alongside the Summit of Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation leaders, he repeatedly referred to the Indo-Pacific region and mentioned the importance of India in his speech. Referring to North Korea, he said the region must not be held hostage to a dictator's twisted fantasies. So that is what the president is doing in Saudi Arabia. And I think he just finished that speech maybe an hour or so ago. Now, in other news on Drudge, WikiLeaks has published the source code for the CIA's tools.
Vault 8.
Vault 8. And also,
that's linked to InfoWars.
And also, Saudi Arabia orders its citizens out of Lebanon, raising the fears of war.
The Middle East is heating up. Trump is devastating the New World Order, and he's bringing the Trump World Order. Oh my gosh, he is devastating George Soros and devastating the Bilderberg and devastating the Davos Group and devastating the international bankers. He's just ravaging them. Ravaging them. Go ahead, David.
Superhumans, chips and brains delete memories and fight disease. Would you like to be a superhuman?
Super chips, no. Here we go. Here we go with the chips. Here we go with the chips. There's a lot of dangerous stuff. You know, cell phone use, 5 times the increase of cancer right near the ear after cell phone use, folks. If you have a chip in your brain, you don't think you're going to get some kind of brain tumor. They show that microwaves are the most dangerous, electromagnetic pulses, dangerous if you have constant exposure to them, cause cancer, various types of ailments, your body shuts down. You're not supposed to be, it's like in the World War II where the people actually stood in front of the radars, you know, because soldiers would stand in front of the radars to just heat up because they felt, you know, warm. But they were being shot through their body with radar. And what happens is they ended up dying of cancer in like a month. So you cannot be hit with these kind of particles that you can't see. With the little microchips in your head, this thing will be shooting out. Imagine your cell phone. It's like putting a phone tower, or what is that? What is that? Those big
high
towers?
Power lines.
The high power voltage things that catch the radio frequencies, all that. That's like putting that thing in your brain. Do you think that would be healthy for your brain?
Well, the
Probably
Bible does
not.
warn us about the mark of the beast in our foreheads, right? So
That's right.
I don't know what that is, but
That's right.
Air Force pilot
Not
shortage.
smart.
Air Force pilot shortage grows to nearly 2,000. Anybody want to become a pilot? They need pilots in the Air Force. Bergdorf up for hundreds of thousands in back pay. He's the guy that was recently convicted of, well, he was charged with a desertion. He was convicted of something much less in Afghanistan. Tourists come to San Diego for Metallica, left with hepatitis A.
Oh my God.
They have an hepatitis A outbreak in San Diego that is growing and getting worse. Chicago mulls $500 fines for texting while crossing street. TSA fails 80% of undercover tests, so they're not even checking.
They molest you to fail 80% of the time. They literally stroke your sexual organs and genitals like 4 or 5 times in their new test. It's like ridiculous. They're molesting you. They're getting you used to being molested. Because they work for a federal organization that is controlled by pedophiles and pedophile rings and sex cults. So they want to groom you and prepare you by, I mean, you think about it. If your child was going to an acting class and their genitals were being brushed by the acting teacher, would you send them there? Think about it. If you're in a park, right? And before you have to enter a park, some unknown person who looks like this little, Jeff Epstein comes out and say, I have to brush your genitals. Would you go to that park? So why, oh why, do you not think it's weird that before you ride a plane and you have to pay thousands of dollars or do it, and people are touching your genitals, do you not think that's strange? Or touching your children's genitals. You see, they do this to little children, 5-year-old children, they're touching their genitals. What the hell? And look, 80% failure rate.
Mm-hmm. So...
And you think this is normal? You don't think this is a big deal? This is humongous. Imagine if before you go to Walmart to shop, some obese thing comes to you, an employee or whatever. It doesn't even have to be. And they have to molest your buttocks and your breast and your genitals. I mean, think how ridiculous. Would you send your children to Walmart? I mean, what the? People got to think. You have to think. This is ridiculous. They're grooming you to be part of a pedophile sex cult network. And they're letting the stupid sex offenders or people who are attracted to doing that kind of thing or think they can get away with it and see naked body scanners of women and men and then touch them. Well, what the heck is this? And it's not even like it's even effective. This is ridiculous. Oh my gosh, okay, Tim.
And speaking of touching genitals, the Hollywood situation continues. 5 women say Louis C.K. crossed the line into sex misconduct. Creepy jokes. Movie premieres canceled. Prosecutors form sex assault task force. List all the accused. There's a list there you can see. Spacey Falls stuns Hollywood.
Corey Feldman.
Haunts.
Corey Feldman.
Corey Feldman living in fear after talking to police.
He is now talked to police, LAPD, and now they're launching on it. He filed a complaint, and they're launching an investigation.
Yes, celebrity hotelier Andre Balaz accused of groping. Wow, yeah.
And he names Marty Weiss. I think you covered that on Wednesday.
We did, we did, yeah.
That's right.
Most armed man in America has 4,000 weapons. Wow, okay. Amid rush to topple statues, a D.C. disgraced former mayor gets his own. I think those of us who lived in Washington can guess what this is about. He was convicted of a drug possession and of
what is that?
Marion Barry. Yes, Marion Barry, of course. Who else?
Catharsis brings Burning Man's spirit to nation's capital. Why do they have a Shiva Nataraj there? That's Shiva, the god of destruction in Hinduism. What the heck is that?
Catharsis brings Burning Man's spirit.
Did they put a statue of Shiva Nataraj? That's also like the one they have at the CERN. But that is the Hindu god of destruction. And what the heck is, why are they putting that there?
Coming soon to the National Mall, a 70-foot long metal dragon on wheels that doubles as a stage, a wooden temple that will be set ablaze in events called Cascading into Compassion and the Consciousness Hacking Meetup.
Meta. Meta, you mean meta?
Meta?
Meta, which means love and kindness in Buddhism.
Here it says meetup, but maybe...
How do you spell meta?
Just meet up. Meet.
Oh, meet up, I'm sorry, meet up, meet up. Okay, I said meet up.
That's the vision for Catharsis on the Mall, a 3-day event that seeks to bring a small slice of the famed Burning Man Festival to the foot of the Washington Monument. The event starts Friday afternoon and will continue round the clock through Sunday with seminars, events, and performances in tent stages and camps. Organized envisioned a scaled-down version of Burning Man, the raucous festival in the Nevada desert that draws thousands each year. And I think it is a Hindu goddess there that we see.
Okay. Yeah. No, that is definitely Shiva Nataraj. I mean, that's definitely what it is. So it must be some Eastern religion thing.
Future humans could live in underwater cities. Where have I heard that before?
Where have we heard that before?
Yes.
Go ahead.
NASA spots 7,000 mile per hour whirlpool on the sun.
I heard about that. That's interesting. But go ahead, Gabe. Let's go. Keep going through the headlines.
Snake man's venom habit holds hope for new antidote.
I've heard about him too.
Police sees infected bodies as plague outbreak out of control. Wow.
He's. Oh my gosh! Wow. Wow.
I don't feel wealthy. The upper middle class is worried about paying for the tax overhaul. Senate plan would scrap income and property deductions. Doing nothing could prove good politics for Dems.
Rand Paul injuries.
Rand Paul injuries remain shrouded in mystery.
What the heck's mysterious? He was beaten up by a socialist commie. His neighbor.
Well, I think we don't even know the extent of his injuries.
He has six injured ribs.
Well, that's we keep
and
getting
lung
different.
damage.
We keep getting different reports. This is the Washington Post story. Anyway, people can look at that later. What else do we have here? Trump delivers 37 major deals U.S. firms signed with Chinese entities during his visit.
Wow.
And declares a new world trade order, like you said,
wow,
new Trump order, yeah?
A new world Trump order, where people can actually flourish and have freedom. Oh my gosh, Trump is changing the world. Oh my goodness, Trump is changing the world. Wow.
Winter comes early. We talked about that at the beginning of the broadcast. Self-driving bus crashes in first hour of service. Talked about that yesterday.
Exactly. Right? Smart technology is dumb. It's dumb. Smart technology is always breaking technology. Broken.
And they're talking about self-flying planes, right?
Yeah. You know what? You trust your life to something that can so easily be hacked and go off like a stupid cell phone. Give me a break. You know how often your cell phone crashes. It's ridiculous. Why? How can you trust your life to that kind of? It's absurd. Yeah. If you're trusting your life, to you're nuts.
O.J. Simpson, who's in the news again somehow,
he was
booted from Vegas hotel after bar scuffle.
Right, and he was. I think he got intoxicated.
Duterte said he once stabbed someone to death. 50,000-year-old lion cub raises hopes of real-life Jurassic Park. Bitcoin, world's most dramatic bubble ever. Probably so.
Probably
Rich
so.
panicking, coach cash hoarding. Cash hoarding.
Well, let's go to the article.
I guess, well, that's interesting. Many people don't have much faith in cash, but I guess the rich do.
We'll look at Vault 8. WikiLeaks begins publishing source code for CIA hacking tools. If you don't understand what that is, let's check it out. I didn't get what exactly we were talking about. Look at this. WikiLeaks began publishing the source code of alleged CIA hacking tools Thursday in a new series dubbed Vault 8. The source code, according to the press release from the anti-secrecy organization, is intended to enable investigative journalists, forensic experts, and the general public to better identify and understand covert CIA infrastructure components, okay? So basically, this source code allegedly is going to let people who want to look into it, even general public, to understand, identify how the CIA operates and what kind of parts of the infrastructure it has. Source code published in this series contains software designed to run on servers controlled by the CIA, WikiLeaks writes, stressing that the material does not contain zero-day or undisclosed vulnerabilities that could be utilized by others. Hive, the first tool featured in Vault 8, aids the agency in controlling malware installed on target devices. Even the most sophisticated malware implant on a target computer is useless if there is no way for it to communicate with its operators in a secure manner that does not draw attention, WikiLeaks writes. Using Hive, even if an implant is discovered on a target computer, attributing it to the CIA is difficult just by looking at the communication of the malware with other servers on the internet. Hive provides a covert communications platform for a whole range of CIA malware to send exfiltrated information to CIA servers and to receive new instructions from operators at the CIA. Wow, it's starting to get a lot complicated. See that? Implanted host to VPS servers, patched with mod proxy IP tables forwarding. Those go from these areas here chunk to the proxy VPN servers, to the cover servers, to the honeycombs, to the DNS servers, to the Ripper Snapper database OSN. I don't know what the heck that means. Details on Hive were first revealed last April as part of WikiLeaks' release of CIA hacking tool documentation known as Vault 7. While the source code for Hive is unlikely to do little more than assist forensic analysts, the code for more powerful tools in Vault 7, if released, could potentially enable malicious attackers. These latest leaks, likely from the same source as Vault 7 files, are believed to have originated from a CIA employer or contractor. In April of last year, it was learned that the joint investigation by the FBI and CIA had begun looking into hundreds of agency members who would have access to the material. That same month, CIA Director Mike Pompeo criticized WikiLeaks and its founder Julian Assange during his first public speech as head of the agency. Are you kidding? WikiLeaks and Assange were a major reason why Trump was able to win and Hillary Clinton got exposed as being the Satan-worshipping demon that she is. Assange has been doing absolutely critical work in exposing the deep state, exposing the political Satanism that exists in the USA today. Assange and his ilk make calls with dictators today, Pompeo said at the time, etc., etc., etc. So there you go. WikiLeaks publishing source code for CIA hacking tool. Also, DOJ Obama loyalists hijack AT&T negotiations to protect CNN's Zucker. Attorney General Sessions impotent to protect Trump in deep state extortion plan for CNA into Soros' hands. Jerome Corsi writes, Washington, D.C. sources close to AT&T negotiations with the Department of Justice over the impending Time Warner $85 billion acquisition have told Infowars.com that deep state forces with DOJ who are loyal to Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama have taken control of DOJ at the highest levels and are dug in. Determined to protect Jeff Zucker, the current head of CNN, in order to make sure CNN continues as an anti-Trump network. These sources are claiming that Attorney General Jeff Sessions has capitulated control over the DOJ negotiations with AT&T, with Sessions abandoning any effort to protect the interests of President Trump, in effect abdicating to the anti-Trump deep state coalition to dictate terms requiring AT&T to spin off CNN, or face a threatened DOJ lawsuit threatening to block the acquisition of an antitrust concerns. I mean, Sessions is proving they got dirt on him because he is just proving to be an absolute disaster. As Infowars.com reported yesterday, the goal of the anti-Trump holdovers in DOJ is to set the stage for George Soros to purchase CNN to ensure that Jeff Zucker remains at the helm, directing CNN's to continue broadcasting with the current Never Trump bias. AT&T has made clear its intention to fire Zucker from the helm of CNN once the acquisition with Time Warner is complete. AT&T may actually want to change it into an actual media organization instead of a propaganda organization. No, they may actually get some more credibility and get some more viewers because people are fleeing from them because they know they're a propaganda wing of the Democratic Party run by and funded by George Soros, especially literally now as this deal may go through. They're trying to get the control to George Soros. Matt Drudge tweeted earlier today that CNN has determined to fire Zucker over rating concerns and because the feud with President Trump has become too personal and ridiculous, whether or not the AT&T deal goes through, even though CNN has made no such public announcement. Deep state loyalists to the Democratic Party within the DOJ controlling the negotiations with AT&T have concluded that the ultimatum forcing AT&T to spin off CNN as a condition of DOJ approval would be a super solution that simply blocking the acquisition because the extortion demand and subsequent sale of CNN to Soros may be the only strategy to make sure Zucker remains in control of CNN and that CNN continues to broadcast a steady diet of anti-Trump. So basically what they're saying is the DOJ is trying to get involved in the acquisition of CNN and AT&T getting CNN. They're saying, okay, we're going to help you go through this deal if you take CNN out of the picture and allow George Soros to buy CNN and then maintain control. There you go, folks. It's crazy, crazy, crazy. We'll be right back after this short break. Stay with us.
Your love is Come set your rule and reign in our hearts again. Increase in us, we pray. Unveil why we're made. Come set our hearts ablaze with hope, like wildfire in our very souls. Holy Spirit, come invade us now. We are your church. We need your power in us. We seek your kingdom first. We hunger and we thirst. Refuse to waste our lives, for you're our joy and prize. To see the captive hearts released, the hurt, the sick, the poor at peace. We lay down our lives for heaven's cause. We are your church. We pray, revive this earth. Build your kingdom here. Let the darkness fear. Show your mighty hand. Heal our streets and land. Set your church on fire. Win this nation back. Change the atmosphere. Build your kingdom here. We pray. Unleash your kingdom's power, reaching the near and far. No force of hell can stop your beauty changing hearts. You made us for much more than this. Awake the kingdom seed in us. Fill us with the strength and love of Christ. We are your church. We are the home on earth. Build your kingdom here. Let the darkness fear. Show your mighty hand. Heal our streets and land. Set your church on fire. Win this nation back. Change the atmosphere. Build your kingdom here. We pray. Build your kingdom here. Let the darkness fear. Show your mighty hand. Heal our streets and land. Set your church on fire. Win this nation back. Change the atmosphere. Build your kingdom here. We pray. Come set your rule and reign in our hearts again. Increase in us, we pray. Unveil why we're made. Come set our hearts ablaze with hope, like wildfire in our very souls. your church. We need your power in us. We seek your kingdom first. We hunger and we thirst. Refuse to waste our lives, for you're our joy and prize. To see the captive hearts released, the hurt, the sick, the poor at peace. We lay down our lives for heaven's cause. We are your church. We pray, revive this earth. Build your kingdom here. Let the darkness fear. Show your mighty hand. Heal our streets and land. Set your church on fire. Win this nation back. Change the atmosphere. Build your kingdom here. We pray. Unleash your kingdom's power, reaching the near and far. No force of hell can stop your beauty changing hearts. You made us for much more than this. Awake the kingdom seed in us. Fill us with the strength and love of Christ. We are your church. We are the home on earth. Build your kingdom here. Let the darkness fear. Show your mighty hand. Heal our streets and land. Set your church on fire. Win this nation back. Change the atmosphere. Build your kingdom here. We pray. Build your kingdom here. Let the darkness fear. Show your mighty hand. Heal our streets and land. Set your church on fire. Win this nation back. Change the atmosphere. Build your kingdom here. We pray.
At break of day, in hope we rise, we speak your name.
543. Back to the King's Report this Friday, November 10th, 2017. Second King Report live from the Cheongguk Palace studio to all the kings and queens of the Kingdom of God. Thank you for joining us this morning. We are here with Dan Gray. Of course, Dan, thank you so much for coming back on the show. Dan started his political journey with Watergate. Back then, he was a progressive, but over the decades since, year after year, issue after issue, the movement left him. Dan still fights for the Constitution and Bill of Rights, for equal protection under law, and since he's now in his late 50s, for our historical heritage. Dan's been involved in NRA for over 25 years, successfully sued SEIU in federal court, works closely to right to work and right to life organizations and activists. He's been a columnist for Watchdog, the Washington Times, and has spoken passionately on radio, in person, or on just about every liberty issue that there is. Dan works behind the scenes, providing guidance for groups on just about every arc of the liberty spectrum, including militias and many local anti-corruption efforts in the Commonwealth and beyond. He helped start a national tax reform think tank last year and counts his efforts with newcomers to the movement as those he's most proud of. Last year, Dan was Schuylkill County Chair for the Cruz campaign here in Pennsylvania, and has been both surprised and pleased with the performance of President Donald Trump so far. Dan, thank you so much for joining us again this morning. And what a beautiful morning it is.
Good morning, Pastor Sean.
Hey,
Wow, it's a cold morning.
It's cold, but it's great. Hey, it's time to go camping now.
Yeah, I'm fine. I'm ready. I got my bag packed. I always keep that go bag, you know what I mean?
You got your bug up bag, right? Hey, you got your bug up bag. Nice. Now, there's so many things going on. Let's just show a brief clip. This is the newest video from Paul Just Watson, a young millennial who is just, every video of his goes viral on alternative news. And this is about the mass public tamper tantrum caught on camera. Let's go to Paul Joseph Watson.
I mean, it's just such low-hanging fruit. It's so cliched at this point.
Tonight, thousands of people in cities across the country will scream helplessly at the sky 1 year after the election of President Donald Trump.
All right, then, one more time.
3, 2, 1.
Look at these children. Look at that. Oh my gosh. Yes. Look at them. Look at them. They're pulling their hair out. Look at that, Dad. Look at 50-year-old women pulling their hair out. There you go. Hey, in New York City, I guess they're being activists.
Me of something. What could it be?
Shout out his name.
Right.
Apple wants you to believe the evidence so as to turn your attentions away from the
People on the right who actually lost their minds over Obama, but there's a lot of people on the left who just can't seem to deal with all this stuff rationally.
Well, it's interesting. I guess this is their way of catharsis and just trying to release their emotional frustration and angst upon the universe to send out vibrations.
Well, you know, there's something to that. You and I both believe, even though I'm Jewish and you're Christian, we both believe in the power of prayer. I think the power of thinking and feeling does have an effect of some kind. Right. But I'm not sure what kind of effect this inchoate sort of unformed rage has. It's not really an organizing technique. It doesn't really convince others. And
banshee howling, I believe, there's a technical
banshees,
term.
Yeah, that's sort of the Irish term. In Korean, is there a version of the banshee? Is there some kind of demon that screams and
I don't know. Is
hysterical?
Is there a Korean mythological spirit that screams and shouts and votes Democrat? Okay. All right. Let's get back to this video. We're having too much fun.
Okay.
You're reenacting the 2 minutes of hate out of 1984. You're literally Orwellian. We're dealing with the daycare generation. Why do you think college safe spaces now have crayons and puppies to cuddle? We're dealing with infants who learned that screaming was how you got your own way. Well, this is the adult world, snowflakes, and things just don't work like that. Oh, that sweet taste of liberal tears. Tell a lie, it's not.
So I guess this was the November 4th, post-November 4th revolution. Oh my goodness.
Post November 4th revolution.
Oh my goodness. Okay, you guys got that, got that.
Sean, on an individual basis,
Right there.
maybe this is some sort of catharsis for them, but I'm just wondering, first of all, you've got only two audiences who are paying attention to these people. One is the people who already believe what those people believe, and I'm not sure if this is supposed to convince them or get them to be more dedicated and strong in their beliefs.
Pumping them up. Maybe it's pumping them up,
I don't think so.
Take Trump down.
And if they're trying to reach the opposition or those people who somehow managed to be undecided today, exactly how does a bunch of idiot behavior? I'm not sorry. I'm sorry. The people themselves are not necessarily idiots, but their behavior is certainly idiotic.
Childish, at least.
Yeah. Well, how is that supposed to reach people and convince them that their message is somehow
I did
valid?
see it. I did see it reach people. I did see a 2-year-old child, watching the TV because of this.
Well, that's child abuse right there. That's definitely. I'm triggered. I tell you what.
Oh my Lord. Oh my goodness. It's just too much. I mean, I just can't watch the video. I can't get through the whole video, Dan.
Well, sometimes you need a good laugh. With me, I like to turn on the old Bugs Bunny cartoons or the Three Stooges, but anymore, you just put on the fake news, the mainstream media stuff, and you just can't help rolling in the aisles.
Well, you mentioned this Three Stooges. They should scream, pluck each other's nose, and pop each other in the eyes, and block it with the karate chop.
Yeah. Oh, love that stuff. Come here, porcupine.
Oh God.
Yeah, I'm not going to do my Curly impersonation. It's really terrible.
Oh my goodness. Okay, here we go. Back to the video.
I'll get it kicked off.
You guys got that?
A handful of them turned up for 10 minutes and left.
And, excuse me, ma'am. What are you doing? Excuse me. Excuse me, why are you blocking our free speech? Got some sort of aquamarine character here. He's got a old school, type of a diver's scuba mask on or something here. And then he's got a homemade sort of megaphone here that he's putting into a stuffed turtle's mouth. This is actually happening. This is actually happening.
It's like a costume, but they don't know which costume they're wearing. One dude is wearing a sumo outfit. It looks like a sumo outfit.
His $18 billion on, I'd ask for a
George
refund.
Soros must be
Maybe
very
they think
happy.
it's a
His
kind of
$18 billion is
amazing
going to
form
very well spent money. Well spent.
Let's be fair, they need all the help they can get, but seriously, you guys truly do put the tard in libtard.
That must be at some kind of monument. Is that in Washington or something? They're in some kind of government monument.
Democrat Party dying.
Please keep autistically screeching. Please keep calling anyone with a different opinion a Nazi.
You don't need to be videotaping these people. They're on Twitter every day with their white supremacists.
Please keep having no actual...
You guys have audio there? Look at that. It looks like otherwise sane people who are just shouting their lungs off. I guess shouting their lungs off. And I guess in protest, I guess they're just trying to tell the universe. Oh, Dan, do I have you? You're still there? Okay, yeah.
I'm here.
There.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. It's some thoughts on the gubernatorial elections that were general elections that were just held
in Virginia and New Jersey. The results of the gubernatorial race means that 2018 is going to be a sweep for them in the Congress. What we had in Virginia was Ed Gillespie, who is a longtime so-called conservative who really failed to embrace fully conservative values.
Right.
So it's a fail on his part. And so Virginia, which is just had Terry McAuliffe for 2 terms, for God's sakes. I mean, he is the Clinton insider quintessential. So they got Ralph Northam. He was the lieutenant governor. But in New Jersey, Lieutenant Governor Kim Guadagno, I think that's how you pronounce it, Guadagno. She lost to Phil Murphy, which was amazing because Phil Murphy actually promised he's going to be their governor. He promised a tax increase, but there was more of a visceral reaction of the people in New Jersey to Chris Christie. They really didn't like him anymore, and so they didn't want his lieutenant governor. Governor races can mean a lot.
They're like almost gluttons for punishment. You're going to increase taxes? I'll vote for yay!
But wait. Less than 2 years ago, or just about 2 years ago, Governor Wolf won over Corbett here in Pennsylvania, promising much the same thing. He is an uber liberal progressive. He's the only governor who ever actually escorted women to go murder their babies. He actually did this.
Wow.
And yet, less than 2 years later, we get a Trump landslide in Pennsylvania. So the question isn't whether or not the voters are motivated, because the turnout was pretty good across the country in most places. It's a question of whether they're informed. I think they've woken up on both sides, on all sides.
Was there a good voter turnout for the sort of conservative base? Because we know for Trump, we had a big swing from even like 70,000 in Northeast Pennsylvania swung from those who voted for Obama and then swung to vote for Trump.
Well, the turnout back in 2014, the 2012, whatever it was, with it's really early with Corbett lost it, because even though he was a Republican, did a few good things. He was good with pro-life. He was good with pro-Second Amendment, and everything else. He appointed his own father-in-law the first week in office and said the guy qualifies as on paper, and had to defend it. From that point on, it was all cronyism and status quo. Right now, we have people like McConnell in Congress, in the Senate, and Ryan as a speaker, who call themselves Republicans, who call themselves conservative, and who often say conservative type of things. But you look at, what is it? You know the Bible far better than I do, but I think it was Matthew, by their fruits shall ye know them?
Know them by their fruits, yes.
Well, I mean, look, you talk to me and I listen. And then I do 2 things. First, I look at what you do and what you say. And if they match, at least I know you're honest. And that is a big plus in politics. I don't care what side someone's on. If they're honest, it's much easier to deal with them. But if the actions don't match the words, I'm going to go with the actions.
Right, yes.
Now, in terms of the general election, it was an off-year election. The Congress wasn't up, president wasn't up, just a few governorships. I look at the local results, which tell you a lot more. Turnout was up, okay? Even though we have all these gerrymandered districts, not just in Pennsylvania, but pretty much everywhere, that guarantee the status quo for the status quo Democrat or the status quo Republican. There's a lot of new swing areas, and there were a lot of interesting races. I want to highlight just 2 district attorney races, Philadelphia and here, where in Schuylkill County.
Yeah, people are getting awake.
Well, in Philly, you had a DA who actually had to leave because he was found guilty of abusing his office and bribery and corruption and extortion. Just a terrible, terrible deal. A black guy proves that they're no better or worse than any other politician. You don't vote based on skin color, you based on integrity. So we had a really decent Republican running, and a guy who was anti-law and order, pro-sanctuary cities, anti-free speech, really, really, really uber progressive, and he won. Goodwin won in Philadelphia. But that's Philadelphia. So some of the gerrymandered areas are becoming even stronger for the party that they've been set up to support. And Philly is strongly progressive than ever before. But Schuylkill County, now this is where I'm at. It's a pretty Republican area. We had an incumbent Republican DA, Christine Holman, who I know personally. I know a lot of these people. And she was the first woman DA, and she really libertarian views. I like conservative views, but I like honest views. So I voted for the Democrat who doesn't have much politics behind him, but is a career prosecutor, because Holman, and I'll say this on tape, and she can sue me if she wants to, but she overreached, she overcriminalized things that shouldn't be criminal in terms of urban renewal and whatnot. She was totally ineffective on the opiate crisis. And I know personal cases, which if you do want to sue me, Miss Holman, I'll be happy to testify about in open court on the record, where because she knew somebody and had represented them in the past and was friends with them, they got a pass. They committed crimes and they got a pass. I don't like people who use their office for fear or favor. You don't help your friends. You don't punish your enemies. You do your job. So I'm pleased that she got kicked out. There are a number of places where I won't say conservative, where the constitutional candidate, the liberty candidate, if nothing else, the honest candidate who wants to do their job actually won. And there were some squeakers like Ben Nevius, who's in Berks County. He won for a judge spot, and wow. But in the whole, looking across Pennsylvania, there is a trend, and it's not toward Democrat, it's not toward Republican, it's toward competence, restraint, and proper governing.
Right. And
the only problem is that,
whether the person's actually saying what they're doing.
Well, not only saying what they're doing, but what they're saying is that they want to do, but what they want to do is what's proper, legislative matters. That's not their business. I don't want a legislator who gives away all the power to municipal authorities. I don't want an administrator who tries to be a king. And I don't like any of them who are corrupt. In fact, there was one tremendous fail, and this was down to motivation and politics that just blew my mind. In Allentown, Pennsylvania, which is a major city in the Lehigh Valley, we had a guy named Ed Pulowski, who's the incumbent, 2 terms already as a mayor. Really crappy job. I can say that word at least. And I would say worse if we weren't on the air. And I don't curse a lot, but I really would. He was indicted by the feds. There's a massive corruption scandal. I was working with Republicans, Libertarians, Independents, and Democrats in Allentown, because we all realize that if you can't have an honest debate, if the decisions are made in a back room among cronies and it's all for their benefit, then you don't have any chance at all for whatever your view is. And yet it was a tremendous fail. He won. He is back in as mayor again. And the only thing I can think of is that the feds delayed the indictment, and perhaps there's some kind of a deal that was made, because now somebody's going to get appointed to serve out his term because he's going to go to jail. But then again, you look at Philadelphia. We when I lived in Philly, we elected people who were shown on video on Abscam taking briefcases of cash. We elected people who were people elect who they like, who the name they know. Like I said, they're motivated. And on local races, a lot of the time, they really do know the candidates. They know the issues. But most of the time, they don't pay attention. They really don't know what's going on. They're just sort of starting.
Right. What was it? Was it Thomas Jefferson? Or one of the founding fathers said, a well-informed public is absolutely essential for the sustenance of a free nation. You know, something along those lines. I'm paraphrasing. But like, it's so important to be up to date. I mean, it's hard to keep even in, to be aware of, the big stuff. But of course, even the local stuff, it's even more important to know where your people are standing, what kind of, people are running for your local positions of power.
Absolutely. And it was John Adams who said, and again, I'm paraphrasing, that what's necessary for the maintenance of liberty is a good people, a wholesome
Right.
people, a godly people. So we need two things. We need people to start playing the identity politics of the past, not of today. And I don't mean the race politics that's coming back. You know,
Yeah, you were just
you're
mentioning
Korean
that's a
and
wonderful
I'm
point, 'cause even Martin Luther King said
right. Look,
we shouldn't
now
do
you're
that, right?
Korean. I'm Eastern European. Somebody else is African. No. You know what? I don't like that. What we are is we're Americans. Now,
Yes.
if we play that game and we're good Americans who actually care and we take the time to actually find things out, and you know, elections aren't the only way of choice. If you look at the NFL situation today, people are voting by walking. They're not showing up for games and they're voting with their wallets. And that
Yeah.
makes an
It's down
awfully
like-
big
well,
difference.
ESPN's like your ratings are down like tremendous. Like, how much was it, Tim? Do you recall that? I mean, just totally collapsing.
I wanted to mention Marion Barry, Washington, D.C., former mayor who was convicted of drug possession, and now the city council is taking steps to build a statue for him.
Well, now wait. This is a great opportunity because then we can protest and say we don't like people who rape young children, which he did. We don't like people who use crack, cocaine,
Which he did.
and who are corrupt in office. But if they want to give him a statue, it's history. You know, the thing is, I wouldn't take down a statue of Hitler or Stalin, and I can't stand either one of these guys in any way whatsoever. I would leave it up, but put a different plaque on the base saying what they really did. How many people these people killed.
Yes. It's amazing. Well,
Exactly.
it's amazing. Did you see President Trump declare from the White House? They released it just, 3 days ago on November 7th, I believe it was. The National Day of Victims of Communism. Amazing. Bringing light to the fact that the communists have murdered over, they said 100 million. It's really, that's very low estimates, probably close to 220 million in the last century alone. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back after this. More with Dan Gray. Stay with us, folks.
Hi there, folks. And look at what I've got here today. My God, take a look at this. This is a BFR in 454 Casull with an octagonal barrel, magna porting, micarta grips. And look at that, it even has my initials on it, JM. Look at that thing of beauty, my God. Pop open the cartridge insertion door, and look at that cylinder spin. The finest revolvers in the world. That's a cannon. That's a cannon. Oh, man. Pretty accurate, though. Pretty much on target. Master Reaper.
At break of day, in hope we rise, we speak your name. At break of day, in hope we rise, we speak your name. At break of day, in hope we rise, we speak your name.
And we are back. Welcome back to the King's Report. We're here with Dan Gray breaking down so many things. Dan, let's talk about some of the things we talked about. Break, socialism, and of course some of the new events that have transpired in the last week or so with the jihadi terrorist attack in New York City and the Texas terrorist shooting. Go ahead, Dan.
All right. Well, what we were discussing is that socialism and communism is always portrayed as just a mistake in tactics. That the people on the left say, look, sure, Stalin killed all these, tens of millions, and sure, Mao killed all these hundreds of millions, and yeah, Maduro's doing a terrible job and he's killing people.
But 3 million, 1 out of 3 of people, right?
Well, yeah, but they always say, well, we'll do it better. It just wasn't implemented correctly.
Yes,
and my take is this. It can be implemented correctly, and this is going to shock people, but I think that communism, socialism, it can definitely work, and it does work on the right scale. In a family, it works, right? We've had times over the many years I've been married and have had a child that sometimes we all contribute equally. Sometimes one person contributes everything. Yet we all share equally. We all get food the same way. We all get a roof over our heads and heat. There's nothing wrong with that. All right. When it comes to a kibbutz in Israel or a shaker community in the past here in America, you can have a group of maybe 500 people or less where everybody knows each other, where there is no permanent leader class, and where everybody takes a job. Just, whatever, it's your turn to do the vegetables, it's your turn to do the cooking, it's your turn to do the cleaning, no matter who you are. Yeah, it can work. When you get to a point where it becomes a representative government, where you have to have a leadership class, where you have to have people who are in charge, once they get the kind of power that socialism insists upon getting, right wing, left wing, I don't care. Once you get that kind of power concentrated in the hands, it could even be crazy people like Idi Amin. It doesn't matter whether they have an ideology or not. People individually can be trusted on an individual basis, on a case-by-case basis. Most people out there, they don't try and run me off the road. They don't try and hit me with sticks. They don't try and shoot me. Most people are fine. But when it comes to power concentrated in their hands where they can actually make or break somebody else, I don't trust any of them. I wouldn't trust myself with that kind of power.
Right. Yeah, it's very interesting. Even I remember talking to my brother, Justin, and he was saying, yeah, socialism can work on the family level, on the family level, on a smaller scale. I mean, even we talk about frequently about the kingdom of God and things like that. And even, in a very free society, you can still have pockets. You can still have little communities that are gathering and are, associating freely. And they're deciding, okay, our community of, 100 people or whatever, 80 people, we're going to be more socialist. We're going to share everything. We're going to share our wealth, all the produce, all that stuff. We're going to do that. And they don't wreak havoc. It's just when, as you said, it becomes so centralized and so concentrated that then they have the power to start stealing from people, killing people, assassinating people. Military, the law enforcement gets centralized. I mean, that's where it becomes very, very dangerous.
Yeah, in my community, we're very individualistic. We band together when there's a need and when we feel like it or want to, but most of the time, people do what they want. And if they're not infringing on anyone else's right, we'll defend the fact that they're doing what they want, whether we like it or not, and that's fine. San Francisco, where I've got some family living, they are very socialist. They voted it in themselves. They like it. They want it. Good for them. I'm all for the laboratory of democracy. If they can show a success, that's fine. That's wonderful.
Well, you've heard
and maybe they'll convince people.
Right? They're allowing HIV to be, enter into the blood supply. Oh,
that's a scary thing there.
That's
look,
crazy.
I saw a thing this week, a story about a restaurant in Canada that hires all HIV positive people. Now, look, I will buy a car from somebody who has HIV. I don't even have to know, or even if I did know, I would shake their hand. I would sit down in a bar and have a drink with them. I would be friends. I actually have lost 2 people in my life who were good friends who died of HIV back in the 80s. It's a terrible disease, but I don't care if Typhoid Mary washes their hands. I don't want them to be risking other people to prove some political point. If you look, my father's blind, okay, and my sister-in-law is deaf. Now, I wouldn't ask my sister-in-law to be a music critic, and I wouldn't want my dad to be driving a car. It doesn't mean that I don't love them, and it doesn't mean that they're not good people. It doesn't mean that they can't do all kinds of things, but it's not worth risking other people or making uninformed decisions.
Yeah, it's like this, Misery Loves Company. It's like, wow, all the, I'm just putting the whole population at risk like that because the governor is saying that he doesn't want to offend anybody. Well, you're talking about a very debilitating, life-changing disease that for many people is treatable to a certain degree, but it usually ends in death. And to allow that into blood, wow, that is just the epitome of guilt shaming and political correctness. It's totally beyond, it's unbelievable that can happen to the U.S.
Well, let's say somebody comes from Africa with Ebola, or what's going on in Madagascar right now with pneumonic plague. It's not bubonic plague. This is actually spread by coughing and by sneezing, which is very, very dangerous and very deadly. Now, I'm not going to say, well, they're black people and they deserve to not be discriminated against, so we got to just let them come in. I'm not going to say that they're from another country and they don't understand the rules that we have, and they don't have the same hygiene standards, and it's all equivalent. So, no, look, when my folks came here, if they were sick, if people who came through Ellis Island, okay, if they were sick, they were put in quarantine. They were given medical care. If it was something that would, run its course or be treatable, fine, a few weeks and they're let into the country, and it was a good thing. If it was chronic, if it was something that wasn't treatable, like syphilis at the time or whatever, they sent them back. And it wasn't a case of being mean to them. It was a case of being kind to us.
White, black, red, Asian, rainbow color. Doesn't matter. If you have a disease that can be spread by coughing that is deadly, my goodness, you should be quarantined. My goodness.
It goes beyond that, too. While in this country, a citizen has the right to be a socialist or a Nazi if they want to, as long as they're not acting on it and committing violence. If we're going to let people in from other countries, and I'm all for this. I mean, we're all immigrants except for the Native Americans. Come on in, but come on in if you believe in Americanism, if you believe in the Constitution and the rule of law, if you believe in our customs and cultures, and then add to the mix. I love that. I love we all love the food from everywhere in the world, but I don't mind the language changes and the cultural changes, the positive things that make us better Americans. I mean, my folks added to this country, your folks added to this country. This is a good thing. But if they want to come here because they want to institute a change and make it like the shithole that they came from, no. Enjoy yourself over there. Come for a visit now and then on a short-term visa if you want to. But no, we don't need people who want to be subversive and destroy what we have here. We're fighting hard amongst ourselves to try and preserve that.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to have a more open immigration policy, of course, if you didn't have the welfare state, that would be a huge. I mean, that's how it was before the big welfare state. You had immigrants from all over the world that come here, and then if they couldn't make the wages that they would go back to their countries. Well, look, obviously, you have to have some vetting process for terrorists and things like that. But hey, not with this huge welfare state.
Well, I know that you came here and became an American, and my grandparents.
I was born here. My parents.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. My grandparents in one case and great grandparents in the other, the ones who did come, although one set of great grandparents died in a concentration camp under Hitler, but the ones who came, okay, they had to have a sponsor who promised the government that they would have a job and that they wouldn't get in trouble and that they would have a place to stay. And the sponsor paid for that or arranged that. So they came here and they worked their behinds off, and they made sure that their children learned English, and they made sure that their children got an education, and they made sure that they not only obeyed the laws, but they became participants. I have a friend from Mexico. I used to work with this fellow. He's a great guy. He was in banking and actually went undercover for the DEA to go after money laundering by cartels. So he was in fear of his life for doing the right thing, came to this country, became a citizen. Now, he looks Mexican. He definitely has an Aztec look to him. He speaks with a heavy accent because English is his second language. And this guy goes to every PTA meeting. He votes in every election. He has an informed opinion on every single thing. And he knows the Constitution better than 9 out of 10 Americans who were born here. This is a great man to come into this country.
Well, it's so amazing because you have like a record number of Hispanics, blacks, also Asians that voted for Trump and now are turning to support him because the open borders let in gangs, MS-13, and they're the ones that are ravaging the Latino communities. These people are the ones that are getting violated by these, by all these problematic people coming over the border.
Well, it's nothing new. I mean, I'm Jewish. There were Jewish gangs. Seriously, Jewish gangsters like Meyer Lansky and whatnot. The Italians came over. There were Italian gangs. They became, the mafia. There were Irish gangs, Polish gang. You name it. You're going to have that.
Right.
But the difference was that the communities didn't support that. They wanted to rise above that. They wanted to be legitimate, and they actually contributed to getting rid of that. They couldn't stay, if you met Italian people in the 50s, they weren't proud of the mob. They hated the mob for making them look like criminals.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So our immigration policy with this diversity lottery and this chain migration and this absolute, until recently, this absolute unvetted, I don't care. In many cases, it really was unvetted. They just took people's words for things instead of checking them out.
Terrorist, just a week ago, he was on the diversity program, visa program.
Yeah, no, look, he came from Uzbekistan, and that's not a good place to live. I don't agree with Trump that we don't want people from Uzbekistan. Okay, he said even that country. Maybe we do. It wasn't
on a terrorist list. It wasn't on the terrorist list, I believe, of the 6 countries.
No, it wasn't.
Yeah, it was not on that list.
Now, the guy came here on this diversity lottery. Had he come here because he was fighting against corruption, or he was interested in promoting democracy, or he really believed in liberty, I'm fine with that. I don't care where they come from. We all come from somewhere. But
yeah,
I'm not interested in somebody who is a Muslim fundamentalist. I'm not interested in somebody.
This is an important point. It's not. And whenever anybody says this, it's, oh, you're a Islamophobe, you're a bigot, you're a racist. Look, the U.S. used to have, for visas, you had to say whether or not, if you were a communist, and if you were a communist, you were not allowed entry into the United States.
And there's a reason for that. Well, there's a reason for that, and it's not just some kind of abstract ideology.
Right.
The whole aspect of communism or of radical Islamism, I'm not talking about ordinary Muslims, the whole aspect is that they seek to have control of a system of every single thing that every single person does through a political means to the point where they run everything. It's not compatible with the Constitution. If what you do, if what you believe is compatible with constitutional values, great, add to the mix. Let's see what you have to say. Maybe you can convince me that I need to grow or change it. It's a good thing. But no, we're not interested in this. Now, one thing you mentioned was that actually the 3 different orders that the Hawaii judge kicked out on immigration that Trump had put in. You know, he doesn't have that anymore. It's a moot point. Supreme Court probably won't even hear the case. All right. The reason is because he promised that within 6 months, they would come up with an extreme vetting program that would help keep us safe. And now they have it. And it doesn't apply to Middle Eastern countries or Venezuela. It applies across the board to all the 200 some countries in the world. And that's fine. And he's proposed common sense solutions, things other countries do, things we used to do, which is a point system. If you have a university degree, you're worth more to this country than somebody who is a laborer. If you can read or write, you're worth more than somebody who is completely unable to do those things. If you're healthier, if you're smarter, if you work harder, if you have a history of entrepreneurship, if you can bring something to the table, it's great. Now, I'm not saying that you have to be perfect to come here, or that all of us here already are perfect. We have plenty of failures and losers and jerks, just like any other place in the world. But we have 320 some million Americans. We don't need to take in 100 million Americans who are jerks when we could take in maybe 5 million over the next 10 years who are great people.
To pay for the 7 billion of the world.
Yeah.
Oh my.
There was a tremendous YouTube video where a mathematician explained immigration by using gumballs. And he showed with relative numbers of gumballs, which is much easier for most people who are not mathematicians to grasp, how even by accepting significant percentages, 1 million or 2 million or even 5 million a year, that's massive changes.
Which Europe has done, by the way.
Right. Now, it does change the local area that brings them in, but it doesn't change the situation in the world. You're taking a drop in the bucket. There are literally billions of people. If you look at communist-run China, or if you look at India, which is going through some serious problems, it's a democracy. It's relatively free, but boy, do they have problems. Billions of people in this world, sub-Saharan Africa, many places in South America like Venezuela, not good for people. It's a very bad political system that they've got going in these various places. And we could bring in 1 million from each one of these countries, and while it would change us tremendously, it wouldn't change what they've got going on at all. We should be the shining example. Right. We should be that shining city on a hill the way we used to be, where people want to emulate us, where they want to be us. And then we can lend assistance to help people within their own countries. You know, my solution to the big thing was Mexico. All the Mexicans are coming here. Like I said, I've got friends who are great American citizens who came from Mexico. But my solution is simple.
Possible. You're a Trump supporter. You can't possibly have Mexican friends.
Well, of course I do. I have friends from all over the world who are good people. And that's the thing that matters. But my solution is, if you're from Mexico, I would love to see Mexico get uncorrupt and get rid of those drug cartels and have some representative democracy that worked. I would love to see Uganda be a clean, safe place, or Myanmar, or you know what I really like to see, and I'm sure this one goes right to your heart. I would love to see all of the rulers, that ruling class in Korea. I'd like to see them in jail or dead, and I'd like to see the common people of a unified Korea working together. North Korea, they're the same people as South Korea. They're your relatives. They're good people.
Exactly the same. I've been to both, by the way.
And you know what?
Oh, goodness.
There's no reason why, as a unified country, that couldn't be an even better country than South Korea is today. And North Korea is, in my opinion, based on
people are craving for it. North, are you kidding? Oh my goodness, they're craving it. They all have the contraband, like South Korean and Korean dramas. They see how good the South, is living, even though they're brainwashed from elementary school to believe that they're like impoverished. They all know, the North Koreans all know it's so unstable there politically.
Yeah. Well, in terms of devastating regimes of human rights abuses, with a few exceptions in history, perhaps the Mongol invasions that swept through and killed so many, with maybe the Mughals, the Muslims who came down from Afghanistan and swept into India, with possibly those exceptions, I can't think of this regime in terms of percentages. Sheer numbers, it's limited because North Korea is a small country and it's limited in its size and population, some 20 million plus people there. But in terms of percentages, it's worse than Hitler. I mean, it is worse than Stalin or even Mao.
Worse.
And we can't accept this. We cannot accept this and allow it to spread. I don't even think we should allow it to continue there. That's not the will of the people there.
Well, Trump is speaking in the same exact lines. I think he did such a great job. Even in Korea, we have all the Korean media talking about, wow, Trump is so amazing. Even though they were against him like 10 months ago, they're all like, Trump is amazing. It's incredible. He's just done such an incredible job. I mean,
I don't know. In the Far East, just like every other place in the world, it's all about appearances and face, and things change.
There's a lot of that. There's definitely a lot of that.
Well, there's a lot of that here too. It's not strictly an Eastern or Western tradition. I look at results, like I said. He said a lot of good stuff, and even Xi, the premier of China, who's now cemented control with that party Congress in a way that nobody has since Mao. Even a lot of these countries out there are saying things. They're going to help. They're going to do this. They're going to do that. I want to see results.
Well, 37 companies signed with Trump during the Chinese visit.
Well, that could be a good thing. It could be a bad thing. It could be something where they said yes and it's all signed up. But the question is, what are they going to do? I mean, if you look at, we were going to talk about some social media or whatever, but if you look at Google and Twitter and Facebook in China, they're hand in hand with the Communist Party, censoring people, reporting people. There are many companies that have gone over there for the cheap labor. And what they end up doing is losing or having stolen or just giving away technological secrets that, patent infringements. So is it a good thing? Let's find out.
We're going to have to wait and see. Those are the final words with Dan Gray on this morning's broadcast. We thank you, Dan, so much for joining us and talking about all these things. I know we want to talk about so much more. You got to come back. You got to come back.
Anytime.
Oh,
I like,
great to have you.
I'll tell you what, I like to say good things about people. I won't tell lies, but I will say good things when they're true. I've been looking at your channel, and I wasn't aware of it prior to fairly recently. You have a lot of very interesting guests. You're a good interviewer. You ask great questions, and you're one of the more informed hosts that I've ever had to deal with. You really know your stuff. You do your homework.
Well, I'm just a wacky guy with a crown and a camo suit.
I was going to wear camo this morning, but it's a little chilly. I just like,
Always good to see you, my friend. Dan,
Thank
so
you.
nice to have you once again. Folks, great to have you all with us. Adventurous Friday. It is already snowing. We can see it right now. Get outside. Hey, maybe you may want to even do some camping tonight outside. That's where I'll be at. We'll see you tomorrow, 5 a.m. sharp. God bless, Godspeed, and may his kingdom come.